Chapter 81 Observe the war situation third-party disadvantage. So, it's all Crocodile's conspiracy. In Alabasta's palace, Vivi's father Cobra patiently explained to several rebel leaders despite his injuries. Of course, in fact, as long as they see the king who has just been rescued, the rebels can guess the truth. We made irreparable mistakes. Rebels fighting for their own justice, and for their country. In the end, I found that my blood was nothing but desperation after being used. If you can still hold the 1 in 10,000 fantasy of, maybe what Princess Vivi said is false, then now. A few young leaders who fell to the ground were full of ashes, and they didn't even need the king's army to do it. They had already lost their vigor and vitality as seen with the naked eye, including their chief of staff, and Eric who had a pile of medals hanging on his body. It's natural to regret, and it's natural to be sad. The middle-aged King Cobra let go of the guards who were supporting him, and stepped forward to face the rebel army who once wanted to take his head. We've all lost a lot, but the real enemy is still unscathed. Now is not the time to be discouraged. All stand up. Let us fight against a common enemy, and then face the future together. King. Your Majesty the King. Even if Crocodile is framed everywhere, the entire country is in a situation of internal and external turmoil. The fact that Nefertiti Cobra still has many followers shows that he is a great king. Pity. Insufficient strength, facing Shichibukai's Crocodile can only. As Alabasta people, I believe you all know the strength of Crocodile. God of the Desert. This was the name given to that Shichibukai by countless civilians who had seen Crocodile's attack. And now everyone has to face, is such a powerful enemy. Boom. Mr. Roman, His Majesty the King. The first rebel leader Kosha knelt on his knees and slammed his forehead on the slate, leaving a pool of blood. Please give us a chance at redemption. Dong dong dong. The other rebel leaders also fell to the ground at the same time, with their foreheads on the floor. Please. X5. I have no problem. Roman looked at the middle-aged Cobra who looked up. Your Majesty, what do you think? Okay. Well, the cannon fodder that consumes Crocodile is here. Facing the big boos whose strength is far superior to his own, Roman has no mental cleanliness that must be one-on-one. It's a wise strategy to use other people to consume a wave first, and then let Luffy as the ace play at the end. Otherwise, if Luffy can single-handed boosts, what do he have to do with his friends? Are you calling 666? Rubbing his temples, Roman frowned and Vivi next to him couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Roman, is there something wrong with the others? Ah, no. Roman waved his hand. No problem, just. Wong wong wong. Woo. Located over the battlefield of Chopper, what came from Jihei was such a strange battle. Let Roman start to reflect on whether he is excessive force. A good Chopper was taught badly by himself. On the battlefield, Chopper used the high-speed movement ability of his animal form to avoid the attack of the burrowing mole fruit ability miss. Merry Christmas, while using the mouth cannon to turn the real mouth cannon, Mr. .4 weapon, the gun that ate the dog fruit, dachshund type, or the cannonball dog named Lasso, was severely suppressed. It translates to roughly. You say you are a dog, but are you really a dog? Dogs are carbon-based creatures, but you clearly have the characteristics of silicon-based creatures. You say you are a gun, but are you really a gun? Guns are just tools, but you can think, move, and sneeze. Who are you? Where are you from? What is the meaning of your life? Gun dog, or dog gun, that's the question. Gunslinger is caught up in 3 philosophical questions. Lasso, what's wrong with you? Facing his pet dog who was dizzy, even the slow-witted Mr. 4 became anxious. But without the cannonball provider, the cooperation of Mr. 4 and Miss Merry Christmas immediately had a fatal flaw. The normal battle is Miss Merry Christmas, burrowing into the ground to drive the enemy away. The gun dog, Lasso, provides the cannonballs, and Mr. 4 is responsible for hitting the cannonballs with the huge force that he can swing a 4-ton club to injure the enemy. But now, reindeer-capable man, don't run. I'm not a reindeer, I'm a human, Chopper, who subconsciously retorted, came back to his senses. I am sorry, I'm used to it. But it's not the way to drag it on like this. When the dog reacts then. Blue ball. A golden pill is swallowed into the belly, and from now on, my life is up to me. Ahem, although it is also a golden ball, the essence of the blue wave ball is a drug that can disrupt the deformation wavelength of zone devil fruit, which was researched by Chopper himself. This allows him to have several additional zone forms, such as Jump Boost. Instantly transformed into a half-orc, Chopper leapt up, dodging the claws of the underground mole old lady Miss. Merry Christmas. The whole person volleyed towards the sausage gun dog, Lasso, and the other two didn't respond. When you come over, reach out and wipe the dachshund's nose, and then press his head into the hole next to him. I am sorry. Ah. Boom. After a series of sneezes, the earth shakes and the mountains explode. And in the continuous void on the battlefield, the figure of Miss Merry Christmas was suddenly blown out. Sure enough, the potholes are all connected. Just a little bit of pepper, let the sausage gun dog lose consciousness with a trick of self-destruction, and by the way, Miss Merry Christmas was blown up. And Mr. 4 is very powerful, but its movement speed is very slow. The big picture is set. Snapped. At this moment of distraction, Chopper, who had transformed into an orc, tightened his ankles, and a hurried voice came from below. Caught you, you pig, pig. Bad. Slaying gunpowder star. Boom. Although this move is not very powerful, it will not feel good for anyone who can only be beaten and cannot fight back. The woman with the code name Miss Two-Finger was originally a blue explosive haircut, but now she has turned into a charred black and smoking explosive head, and she is close to going crazy. Stop, I'm going to tear you apart. Ah, the ghost stopped. Usopp hurried away, leaving the missing fingers behind to eat ashes. This guy playing the slingshot, has all his attributes been clicked to escape? Slaying gunpowder star. Boom. Ah, I'm going to stab you into a hornet's nest. Ah, don't come here. Yes, that's it. The battle scene looked funny, but Roman, who was observing the battle by hovering paper cranes in the air, nodded in satisfaction. Although Usopp's way of shooting one shot, running away to make a distance, shooting another shot, and continuing to run away to make a distance is very wretched, he has to say. ADC should play. Being able to fly a kite to drag others to death is the essence of ADC. Carrying two knives to play melee, but also embarrassed to call it a long-range occupation. Do you really think that as long as you throw something out, you can be considered an archer? It seems that both Usopp and Chopper are still very reliable. With a subordinate who runs so fast, no wonder the captain wearing a straw hat is left alone in the rear. It's really miserable. What did you say? Usopp, who was running wildly, paused. I said, it was because of a coward like you that the straw hat boy died so miserably. Luffy isn't dead. I'm not a coward either. My fake. What are you going to do, Usopp? Do you want to play hot blood too? Big brother, you have an ADC to do a good wretched remote output. Hey. Roman, who was out of sight and out of mind, switched his attention to the third Jihei, and the situation in his eyes made him look serious. Because. Do ha ha ha, run quickly. Clap clap clap. Facing Nami, who disappeared at the corner of the corridor, the cowboy man codenamed Mr. 10 smirked and fired 4 rounds with both hands. Sawdust and gunpowder flew, but the 4 shots were aimed at the wall of the corridor. Puff puff. In the 4 soft beats, although Nami, who had run away, tried her best to dodge, there were still a few bloodstains on her body. Magic lance, refracted bullets. The cowboy behind him, codenamed Mr. 10, cleverly used the collision between bullets and the wall, as if he was shooting the wall absurdly, but the 4 bullets shot were inconceivably refracted into the corridor on the left, successfully injuring Nami. No, it should be said that it is all on purpose. Hey ha ha ha, run faster, faster. Miss. Tuesday with a huge long knife crossed Mr. 10 with 2 guns, and the long knife in his hand waved towards the corridor on the left. Soft knife, waltz. The long knife of equal height in his hand was like running water, like a breeze, and the blades of Vice Admiral were swirling. A few pieces of white paper flew out easily and stuck on the wall of the corridor behind him. I advise you not to waste your energy. Dressed in leather jacket and trousers, Miss. Tuesday swung the long knife in his hand into circles. As soft as noodles, it protects the 2 of them together. Even if Nami reluctantly threw a lot of white paper as a flying weapon, she was still easily picked away by the other party. Don't think that we are not good enough because we are ranked low. The ones who chased Nami into the cabin were a 2-gun cowboy named Mr. 10, and a leather-clad knife girl named Miss Tuesday. In fact, if they weren't playing out of boredom with the strength of the 2, I'm afraid Nami would have already been won. Hoo. Although the other party was just playing, but now Nami was covered with gunshot wounds and sword marks all over her body, which made Roman's serious voice come from the paper crane on her shoulder. Wait for me to come. No need. I can handle them. Roman, we're partners, not thigh pendants. Okay, you little. The words of worry turned into firm words. Kill them. P.S. Ask for a ticket, everything is fine. Chapter 82 waiting for you, 3 ways to break. Chew, chew, chew. Plates of food were poured down Luffy's throat, almost as neatly as they were poured into a sewer. Forgive Roman's description of it, it is such a bold scene in front of him. Roman, hasn't that bastard from the crocodile come yet? Facing Luffy, who asked questions while stuffing food in his mouth, Roman first used his observation hockey to carefully scan Luffy's chest several times, and had to admit that people's constitutions are really different. In contrast, the wound on his abdomen that would burst once he exercised vigorously was a shame for Jill. Think about it carefully, don't get the worst resilience in the end, it turns out that you have a little. Get ready, Luffy. Roman shook his head and got rid of those messy thoughts. You must have a certain understanding of crocodile's strength, but what I want to say is, when he was fighting with us, he was just playing. If we want to win, there is no possibility that we will be able to take down the opponent in a duel. I see, Roman. With a savage tear, Luffy's expression became serious and serious. When wolves face beasts, they will fight in groups. I am very clear about the gap between me and the crocodile, I will not naively ask for a heads-up duel because... Luffy looked up, with a mature manly face on his face. That's joking about the lives of your mates. Luffy, you sure didn't disappoint me. But... Wiping the corners of his mouth, Luffy looked at Roman seriously, give me the position of the alpha wolf, no problem. Of course, the position of the main C is yours. It can only be yours. Well, now that Luffy's side is ready, let's see what's going on elsewhere. First, the Mole Highway. Chopper's feet were caught by the mole fruit power user's miss. Merry Christmas, and he used the fruit power to dash away in the sand-like water, as if Chopper suddenly realized, flying on the sand. But, hurry up and stop. Who will listen to you, pig? 4 bats. In front of Chopper, who was caught at a high speed, was Mr. 4 in a hitting position. The 4-ton metal ball and stick went down with a stick, not to mention the bones. The bone slag turned into powder, right? Fusion technique, Crossroad 4. Boom. Miss. Merry Christmas, Chopper, who came with a Luffy, was smashed by Mr. 4, who had been preparing for a long time. The air was hit by a circle of white air waves by the huge force of the opponent. And Chopper turned into a meatball and flew high on the spot. Etc. Meatballs. Fur strengthening. Chopper, who had transformed into a round defensive posture, returned to his human form in midair, and after landing, he fell to one knee and spat out a mouthful of blood. It's such a terrifying power, even after the fur enhancement that I specially used for defense absorbed most of the impact. It also broke a few. Snapped. You can't escape our palm, pig, pig. Careless. One more time, Mr. 4. Faced with Mr. 4 who was once again missed. Merry Christmas grabbed his ankle and rushed towards Mr. 4 in a waving pose. Chopper was shocked. If he was hit again, even if he transformed into a fur-strengthened posture. Wait, transform. Got it. In an instant, faced with Mr. 4 rushing towards at high speed, and the 4-ton metal rods rapidly expanding in the pupils. The first strong wind ripped the hairs on Chopper's face violently, but the experience of being pulled by Roman to practice gave him a firm focus, and then the bat was about to swipe at him. Transform, release. In the blink of an eye, the orc who was still tall and strong just now turned into a human beast form, normal, less than 1 meter tall. Not only did Mr. 4 feet's bat with a gale force suddenly fall into the air, but even the Miss Merry Christmas, who was grabbing his feet in the ground, was empty. Brush. Above his head is a flying stick, and below it is the claws of Miss Merry Christmas, and the petite Chopper in the air rolls over and re-transforms into an orc state. With a bang, he landed behind Mr. 4, half-squatted on the ground, twisted his waist and punched. At the same time. Strengthen arm strength. Bulge. Chopper's arm muscles swelled like a Hulk. The throbbing arms with blue veins slammed into Mr. 4 feet's waist from behind with the mighty force of breaking mountains and rocks. Carved hoof Sakura. Boom. Mr. 4 feet's sturdy body is flying high in the air. The violent shock from the kidneys instantly robbed him of his thoughts. In midair, his eyes turned white and he foamed at the mouth. Compared with his proud strength, the defense is not so brilliant. Mr. 4. Codenamed Miss Merry Christmas, the old mole fruit hadn't recovered from the shock of her partner being dealt with by one move, and Chopper had suddenly rushed in front of her, 1 foot raised high. Strengthened legs. Rise. The leg muscles suddenly swelled, and as Chopper stepped down, the sandy ground with a radius of more than 10 meters swayed in circles like the water surface. It trembled violently like a drum head, and a short, fat figure jumped out of the ground at the same time. Shake your feet. Merry Christmas was knocked out of the ground with one kick, and after leaving the ground, only the so-called mole fruit powers were left. Lie down too, hoofing Sakura. Bang. Sakura-shaped hoofprints appeared on Miss Merry Christmas suddenly raised her forehead back, also declaring her defeat. Huh. With a long breath, Chopper returned to his petite shape, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Almost. It really depends on tactics. Very good, works well. Fighting should find flaws and make a decisive attack. Chopper's strength is there, but he lacks combat experience. As long as the enemy's weaknesses are identified, many battles can be won perfectly. Then next. Usopp, what are you doing, Usopp? Speechless. Although Roman can understand Usopp's behavior, if someone dares to mock Luffy and them in front of Roman, Roman will also immediately come forward with a knife to persuade him to be kind. But Roman itself is a melee fighter, although there are recent signs of developing into a mage, but the early stage is still a melee fighter with a knife. As for Usopp, the skills have all run away. Puff. The Miss, who used the thorn therapy to make his arms extremely strong, finally caught the opportunity to punch Usopp into a bloody man. Seeing that the overall situation has been settled, she is still uneasy and insists on sneering a few more words. Hee, you captains are dead, what else is there to say here that he can be One Piece king of pirates? Do you want to laugh at people with such childish words? Fortunately, the one in the straw hat died early, otherwise you would not be ashamed. Shut up. Take back your words, otherwise I'll never forgive you. Facing Usopp, who was covered in blood all over, the female thorn person codenamed Miss. Two Fingers sneered. Why don't you spare me? Now that you are the prey in my hands, I will not give you a second escape. Looking at the circles of explosives that Usopp took out from his satchel, Miss S' fingers were dazed. Hey, you shouldn't be thinking. You are not allowed to laugh at your companion's dream. Boom. The explosion from the sky drowned the two of them, stunned Roman, who was watching the battle through Jihei in the distance. But what surprised him even more was Tread. A figure with goggles and a long nose came out of the explosion. Forehead. This wave. This wave is a shooter's face-to-face exchange blood single kill jungler. Neat ad, so terrifying. Who? Running into a room, Nami, who closed the door with her backhand, was still breathing. A few sword lights flashed above the door, and then. Ha, you run, keep running. With Mr. 10 and Miss Tuesday blocking the door maliciously, Nami stepped back and bumped her back against the wooden wall. This is a room with no other exit. A thief who has fallen into a dead end. What should we do? Hum. In the face of this desperate situation, Nami was Vivi Isho, who spread out the best of thieves in her hand. Give it up, although your book that ate devil fruit is a bit interesting, but in front of us, the two people on the opposite side thought this book was the same as Mr. .4 feet's Gunslinger. Dead end. Nami lifted the book, and then suddenly launched a 100,000 kilogram power to smash the plank below. With a bang, Nami disappeared into the hole under her feet amid the flying of sawdust, and her mocking words echoed. This is my escape route. Chase. With the exasperated Mr. 10 feet's order, Miss Joe's second-hand long knife swiped on the floor, and a neat circle appeared around the two of them, and then they also fell to the lower level. Snapped. As the two fell to the lower floor, before they could react, Nami, who was holding the book opposite, waved a tender white finger with a confident smile on her face. It's you who are in the dead end. Mr. 10 and Miss Tuesday stood was the corridor where they chased Nami before, with blank sheets of paper stuck around. When thinking of the ability of the other party's book, the expressions of the two Baroque works cadres changed dramatically. Bad. Blast. Boom. As those scattered papers exploded at the same time, the figures of Mr. 10 and Miss Tuesday were immediately submerged in the explosion. On the other hand, Nami turned around dashingly and brushed off her short orange hair. As a thief, if you can't even remember the layout of the building, you'll be caught long ago. Want to catch me? You're still too young. P.S. It's Crocodile's turn soon, ask for a ticket. Chapter 83 Sandstorm Strikes Artificial Rainfall. Albania. Huge cities that can accommodate hundreds of thousands of people are already empty. All the civilians have been evacuated to several oasis cities in the east, leaving only tens of thousands of elites of the Royal Army, making the capital of Alabasta filled with a sense of slaughter. All the water that can be collected is packed in wooden barrels, hidden in most buildings, and waiting. Come on. In the center of Albania, in the magnificent Nefertiti Palace Square, Roman, sitting in a spider wheelchair, looked up to the west. Although other people can't see the galloping figure without his observation hockey, the vision of that day is vivid. It was mid-afternoon, and the blazing sun was illuminating the land in the west. But the light of the scorching sun today was completely covered up by a golden yellow that came from the west like a long rainbow penetrating the sun. The entire sky is a piece of yellow, and the scorching sun has also turned into a circle of setting sun. Before the people arrived, the entire west side was already covered by rolling sandstorms. For a while, only the sound of rumbling resounded through half the sky, and even the desert in the distance seemed to be swallowed up by this golden yellow, swept up and rushed towards Albania together. One after another, like the end of the world. The inexplicable coercion pouring down from the sky made all the king's troops still in Albania tremble. If they hadn't used their weapons to hold the ground, it would have been difficult to even stand. It is like a natural disaster, and all things are like ants. Is this the full power of Crocodile? In addition to Roman, who was in a wheelchair, Zoro and Usopp, who were seriously injured, also stood on the square after emergency treatment, next to Sanji, who was slightly injured, and Chopper, who was busy treating people. Generally speaking, Luffy is the healthiest among them. In the face of the fierceness that rushed over the entire desert, let alone the Straw Hats, even the people next to them were silent. King Cobra, Princess Vivi, 2 vice-captains of the Kingdom Guard, Belle the Falcon, Gaka of the Jackal, and 4 elite Bird Claw warriors of the Kingdom Army. On the other side are the rebel leader Kosha, Kebi with goggles, the fat girl Turtle, the tall Farafora, and Chief of Staff Eric who ripped off the medals on his chest. If it is divided according to the sea bounty, the lowest present is Vivi with a level of 10 million. The others are 20 to 30 million feet Little Masters, and the 2 zone abilities who are Alabasta's Guardians are 40 million feet Masters. But, although they are all experienced and determined people, they can face the power of heaven and earth in front of them. Ask yourself. Don't panic. A voice broke the silence in the palace square. Roman, who was in a wheelchair, shook the feather fan in his hand to attract everyone's attention. Don't put on a dead face and lie in the coffin before opening it. We are not afraid, so you have no reason to be afraid. Saying that, Roman turned to look at Luffy next to him. You say so, Captain. Of course, Luffy stepped forward, no fear in his face. I'm going to beat that bastard crocodile away. Just today. It's here. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Oh. Belle the Falcon, who is Alabasta's highest fighting force, smiled and looked at Vivi, who was protected by him and Yaka of the Jackal. Your Royal Highness, you have made a group of precious friends. Well, come here. The gust of wind had already roared in one step, making everyone's clothes clatter, and then the yellow sand swept across the sky like lightning, obscuring the sun, coating everything in yellow, suffocating the sky and making the earth tremble. Order, Luffy. Usopp. With a loud roar from Luffy, Usopp immediately directed dozens of the king's elite to turn a cannon slowly, and then aimed it at the whistling sandstorm. If you ask what this is, Mr. Crocodile, enjoy your super bomb for yourself. Although Roman doesn't know how this bomb can achieve such a powerful power, the power is claimed to reach 5 kilometers, this does not prevent him from using this thing to take the lead, anyway. Even a zone Birdman can't be blown up, how can you destroy 5 kilometers? Falcon Bell, thank you, I was offended again. Fire. With Usopp's order, anyway, Roman's advice to you is to play by feel, so. Boom. First, there was a violent explosion, and a straight line penetrated the yellow sand and flew towards the west at supersonic speed. During the observation hockey detection in Rome, the massive shell pierced through obstacles and aimed at. A hazy human figure flew away in the yellow sand. The figure is also holding a tall white slender. Boom. Holy crap, my eyes. Hey, no. I'm using observation hockey to observe. In an instant, even if everyone in Albana had already received the warning and closed their eyes, the intense light still penetrated the eyelids, making everyone's eyes white and red. White is an explosion of light covering a kilometer range. Red is the image left by strong light penetrating the eyelids. This. Big brother, you have such a powerful weapon, and you are looking for a fart Pluto. Get a few more out, where can't the world go? One can destroy Marineford, 2 immediately destroy the Holy Land Mariajoy. But it's just a thought. There are so many experts in this world, and this kind of bomb that can only clear miscellaneous soldiers is like that. But I have to say that this bomb that Crocodile didn't know where it came from is really powerful. It exploded with a bang, as hard as a second. Sun suddenly appeared in the sky, which blocked the overwhelming sandstorm. Under the impact of the strong explosion, the originally rolling sandstorm was in a state of disintegration, and even the vicious force accumulated by the rushing across thousands of miles was even more stunned, and its momentum plummeted. But the next moment, the shock changes again. Just like the violent and majestic kind of thunder that turned the night sky into day, the yellow light in the sky burst from a figure, and in the next instant, the yellow-brown light had covered the whole sky. In the earthy yellow light, the earth, plants, buildings are all dyed with a layer of yellow-brown. In this domineering and cold light, the world is full of indescribable indifference and dryness. Everything seems to have gone through thousands of years in an instant, rapidly decaying and turning into yellow sand. Ellipsis. Big brother, it's boring to play like this, just start awakening when you come up. Crocodile. Even though the soldiers in the city poured out the water one after another, seeing that the city was still turning into a desert step by step, Roman controlled Spider's wheelchair to step forward. I'm here to negotiate, the content is. Pluto. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Oh. In an indifferent and domineering voice, the yellow-brown light of the sky dissipated, and Crocodile in a black fur coat danced vigorously behind him, stepping down. Following his footsteps, pieces of flying yellow sand formed stairs out of thin air, as if welcoming their king. And behind Crocodile, is Nicole Robin in a white trench coat. Looking at her shocked look, she probably didn't expect her boss to have such a godlike posture once the firepower was fully turned on. As the two walked down the golden stairs, the people in the entire palace square went from sluggishness to fear, from fear to despair, from despair to determination. This shit. Fighting hard, even if you can only splatter blood on the other side. Tell me, what do you know? Say it, I'll leave you with a whole body. Crocodile, who took off the cigar and shook the ashes, looked at Roman in the wheelchair, and Luffy next to him. Although his face did not change, his heart was already full of doubts. These two guys. One was pierced by himself, and the other was pierced through the chest. Why did he stand in front of him in a blink of an eye? Did they have masters behind them? I know a lot, but since it's a negotiation, of course there should be an equal. Don't think about procrastinating. Crocodile hockey, S-wave. I ran into a bunch of Marines on the way here, if you're counting on them. I've got it sorted. I'm taking the liberty to ask, isn't it that old smoking gun? Crocodile on the opposite side sneered. Assuming he runs fast, I'm afraid of him if I think there is a Marine's skin. Ah, this. Poor smoker, he's the only one who keeps getting beaten up. Well, Mr. Crocodile. Roman spread his hands, because he had already negotiated delays to Roman. So Luffy was just watching out for Crocodile's possible surprise attack. But you're wrong to think we're just related to Marine. The background of our straw hats, tell me to scare you to death. I advise you to use mice's juice. Seeing that Crocodile's face was getting darker and darker, and he was ready to make a move, Roman, who was rambling, suddenly issued. But none of that concerns us. Because our captain is going to beat you up. The paper fan in Roman's hand pointed to Luffy next to him. That's what our captain said. Martial Marine can't keep you. Sengoku, hit hard, don't give me face. You. Just as Crocodile, who couldn't hold back his anger, raised his palm, there was a tick, and the wetness in his palm made him stunned for a moment. Tick, tick, tick. Then it becomes. Wow. It suddenly rained in the sky, shrouding the entire battlefield in a mist of water. Although the rain is not heavy, it means dance, dance, fan. Almost word by word burst out from between his teeth, and Crocodile, who was wet all over, raised his head and swept his fierce eyes. Neferutali Cobra. You hypocrite. Don't spit. Roman interrupted Crocodile, and the rain fell on him just like dewdrops. After wearing a layer of life paper, he is no longer as afraid of ruthless fire and water as before. It's not us who have dancing fans, but Roman cracked the corners of his mouth, revealing his white teeth. The ship named, Ba Kuro Gustav. It's you who will be held accountable by Marine and the world government, Mr. Sand Crocodile. Crocodile looked at the boy in front of him, and he read the words that the other party wanted to express from the provocative eyes of the other party. Hey, don't you naively think that it is your exclusive right to frame the blame. Looks like you've really been on shore too long, crocodile. Dare thieves. Chapter 84 The Weak or Angry Confusion. Desert Sword. Although due to the rain, Crocodile's large-scale skills were suppressed, and even the most invincible elementalization could not be released, but this did not mean that he had no power to fight back. Rather, aside from the fruit ability, he still has the strength to offer a reward of 80 million. What's more, there is no problem with the use of small-scale rustling. Brush. The sword light flashed, and it turned into a golden sand blade that stretched for dozens of meters and slashed down. The target is directed at Roman in a wheelchair, but bullying me and getting hurt. Clap. The long-prepared Roman did not use the elementalization of paper splitting, but a seated spider wheelchair. In the flying white paper, large pieces of life paper were quickly reorganized and constructed, and then swiftly ducked to the side. Just like Mr. 1 feet's cutting fruit, also called quick cutting fruit, easily developed iron block, Roman's paper fruit also made him self-taught after learning observation hockey, kami-e. Although kami-e is known as invisible rokushiki, I haven't seen anyone use it except CP9. But that's just because people in this world like to punch to the flesh, not because kami-e can't. Like Roman just entered the paper man state to evade Crocodile's attack, it doesn't look as pretty, and it's not hockey enough, but it's unscathed as far as the result is concerned. Then, step, step, step. In the dense sound of horses' hoofs, Roman's true leadership charged towards Crocodile with a lance. The first shot was fired for this battle. Paper dance, Centaur Knight. The upper body is the traditional white knight, and the lower body is the body of a four-legged horse. Roman, who is wearing thick paper armor all over his body, charged with his gun while firing his mouth. I can fight you in a wheelchair. Although Roman's roaring lance was swayed away by Crocodile's golden hook, his behavior. There is basically no damage, but the provocation is extremely high. I hacked you. Wet Crocodile is going crazy. The desert sword in his hand is on display, and he is about to slash at Roman. But at this moment, he raised his brows, waved his right hand back without turning his head, and the golden yellow machete in his hand held up several weapons with a clang. You gather these ants. Did you want to help you at your funeral? Crocodile single-handedly blocked the 4 elites of the king's army named Bird's Claw. They originally had a strength of about 20 million, but now. I'm sorry, Mr. Roman. Please forgive our meddling. 4 tall desert warriors held the Crocodile's desert sword with desert-style longswords, great axes, choppers, and scepters. We have to have this guy know the pain of this country. If a person does not drink water for 3 days, he will die. After 3 years of drought, bones are everywhere. Crocodile's plan has already topped 1 million. Correspondingly, there are millions of broken families. In order to self-regulate, human beings have greatly reduced the consumption of water sources through cannibalism. And the anger of this country. Crash, crash, crash. The metal decorations worn by the 4 elite warriors of the kingdom were smashed by their suddenly bulging muscles, causing King Cobra and the 2 vice captains to be stunned. It's a luxury water that can stimulate one's potential, but after using it, only a few minutes of life left. Enough is enough, at least it gives us the strength to fight. Swords, axes, swords and sticks whistled and waved, with great power. All 4 were born in the army, and it was instinctive to cooperate on the battlefield. Even for a period of time, and Crocodile played exactly the same way. No tricks, just pure power and anger. It's time for our redemption. For our sins, for those who died innocently. Following Kosha's words, the rebels collectively took out a bottle of liquid from their arms and drank it, then. Ah! The swollen muscles made the faces of the rebel cadres look particularly grim, but it also gave them far more strength than usual. Sand crocodile, die. As the kingdom's elite and rebel leaders attacked, Roman also stepped back to face a new enemy. Nicole Robin. Although compared with Crocodile, this intellectual beauty in a white trench coat and cowboy hat does not have the kind of scene that is earth-shattering, but her ability is also not to be underestimated. Flowers and fruits can appear in any place like a flower with their own limbs. This devil fruit gave her the ability to start at the target with a single thought, and with her skilled articulation skills, as long as she was still a humanoid creature, she could easily be overthrown by one move. Unless the strength is crushed or the constitution is special, such as rubber fruit. 6 flowers anchor flower. Facing Roman, who was able to escape from Crocodile's hands, Robin didn't mean to listen to his nonsense, and launched an attack directly. The 6 arms that grew out of Roman in the form of a centaur knight grabbed his neck, arms, and feet respectively, and at the same time tried to bend his body backwards and break his jawbone. But paper dance hard. Ahem, don't get me wrong, this is a very formal move. Roman instantly made all the papers covered by him fuse and connect them into a whole, so as to achieve the effect of flirting. Equivalent to a giant steel statue, so. Just by looking at Robin's frown on the other side, she knew that her move had failed. I can't break it. Don't get excited, I have no ill will towards you. As the arm on his body disappeared, Roman waved his hand. As a matter of fact, I don't even have any ill will towards your boss, Sand Crocodile, if it wasn't for our captain who must have beaten him up. However, Roman's words made the intellectual beauty on the opposite side even more nervous. Robin took a step back, not knowing whether it was cold sweat or rain on his face. Are you from the government? What do you say? I'm a pirate. If I were from the government, you might as well say that our captain is Marine. Etc. Think about it carefully. Garp can't wake up laughing as long as Luffy expresses his willingness to, the prodigal son, to join Marine. Garp agreed, Sengoku agreed, and the marshal gave the order. Then Luffy didn't start as a school officer in an instant. 1 year general officer, 3 years admiral. There is no pressure to get the youngest admiral in history. Cough cough. Coughing with a guilty conscience, Roman stood in front of Nico Robin. Anyway, just watch the play with me honestly. No way, Roman and Luffy aren't afraid of Robin's abilities, but that doesn't mean others can ignore her attacks. Especially since Robin was fully capable of taking down the wounded Straw Hats and all the fighting strength of the King's army and the rebel army in one move, Roman couldn't allow her to show any signs of doing something. What's more, if you were a little more vicious, you would just use the flowers and fruits to stick your eyes and dig your crotch. I am afraid that only armament masters would dare to fight Nicole Robin. Her fruit ability is too strong for humanoid special attack attributes. This is the battle of your boss, Sand Crocodile, if you insist on helping. Roman's eyelids drooped. Robin wasn't considered a partner at this time. Then don't blame me for being rude. Tisk, Nicole Robin. The Sand Crocodile in the battle glanced at the intellectual beauty who was motionless after confronting Roman, and became more and more anxious. You must know that even if he kills these worms and finds the steel that records the whereabouts of Hades, Crocodile can only regret entering Treasure Mountain and return empty-handed without Nico Robin's interpretation. As for what to say about taking Alabasta's throne, and then slowly searching for this backup method, it was already over when he beat the smoker who was blocking the way, especially the guy named Roman. Maybe there is a real person behind him. CP. For a while, Crocodile was in a state of turmoil. Although observation hockey could still function, it would be foolish to want to predict, or something with this mentality. At this moment, a long sword stabbed out from the rib of the tall rebel soldier Ferrophora, and attacked Crocodile's arm silently. Although he immediately reacted to dodge, the yin hong on the super long sword clearly explained. Crocodile is injured. And it was still injured in the hands of a group of ants that he usually couldn't even look straight at. You are killing yourself. Sure enough, while confronting Nicole Robin, there was a flash of clarity in Roman's eyes, who was paying attention to the battlefield. People who don't know always think that observation hockey is invincible and 100% evasive. However, the actual situation is, there has never been any invincible ability. Don't you see, the next-door boss, who can perfectly predict the future, the Scarlet King, was almost killed by the captain alone. Observation hockey, who can only predict the attack, dare not say anything about invincibility. Besides, observation hockey is to sharpen people's five senses, to detect changes in the breath and emotions of surrounding creatures, to predict and avoid danger. But what if everyone around you is full of murderous intent towards you? Are they all aimed at you at the same time? The so-called observation hockey can at most tell who has the greater killing intent and whose moves are more dangerous and is easily disturbed by a large number of violent killing intent. That's why it takes a few days for a master to fight one-on-one. Because both observation hockeys can predict the opponent's attack, there is absolutely no way to deal fatal damage. Those who have understood fighting are very clear. There is a body defense and an unresponsive attack, and the damage caused is very different. But if it's a melee, please refer to the top. Whitebeard was hit by the filial sun sword. Who dares to say that Whitebeard's observation hockey is not strong? But his observation hockey was all used to guard against Marine masters. The killing intent and hostility of Marine's many masters made the world's strongest men completely unhappy. Will be pierced by the vortex spider with a sword. So, it makes sense for Roman to gather these Alabasta's little masters. It's just the unforgettable killing intent of everyone. Just enough to interfere with Crocodile's observation hockey and keep him from functioning properly. Not to mention the forecast, which requires peace of mind to use. Well, after the most inexplicable elementalization, observation hockey was also suppressed. Chapter 85 Swordsman Strength Luffy Shot. However, the weak are always the weak. With Crocodile's impatient voice, the yellow sand that he had quietly scattered during the battle gathered above his head, blocking the rain for a short time, allowing him to free up his hand to grab it. Sandstorm, circle. A circle of high-speed rotating quicksand protects Crocodile like a billion meteors. The surrounding knives, swords, sticks, bullets and cannons flew away, and then followed the Crocodile with 5 fingers. Sandstorm, rain. Puff puff. The far supersonic sand bombs shot out in all directions, instantly sending the Bird Claw Quartet and the rebel cadres who besieged him flying backwards. No. In Crocodile's observation hockey perception, even though he was seriously injured by his own move, none of these ants died. Under the power of his heavy-duty firearms, the bodies of these guys were basically intact. The dense sand bullets only left a bunch of wounds deep in the flesh on them, and did not kill them. This is not good. Etc. Glancing at the surrounding warriors flying backwards, Crocodile noticed that the charred wounds on the other side were lifted, layer by layer. Undoubtedly, this familiar defensive capability is that kid. Facing Crocodile's murderous look, who turned his head, Roman waved his hand, friendly. Look down on our weak. If you don't get rid of one of the tricks, I will ask you if you are angry. Are you angry? Crocodile is angry. Forget it, the bugs that couldn't be trampled to death, waste a little more time. Chong. A huge, long and ear-piercing golden and iron symphony sounded as the golden machete and the 2 swords clashed, and even covered up the sound of rain all around. This sound is not only loud, but also has an extremely harsh and sharp friction, just like 3 high-speed rotating chainsaws constantly changing their angles to counteract each other. Bell of the Falcon, Yaka of the Jackal. Crocodile raised his bald brows in the face of the 2 who were fighting against him with swords and swords. Do you want to sacrifice your life for others too? The same zone abilities are different from Bell, Gaka and Chopper, who are the most powerful warriors in the Alabasta Kingdom. Chopper mainly develops the flesh, while Bell and Gaka are mainly human swordsmen, and animal fruits bring more auxiliary effects. Clang clang. In the sword, light and sword shadow, the two vice-captains joined forces to fight the sand crocodile. Bel's swordsmanship is cool and atmospheric, and with the bird and bird fruit, falcon shape, he can move and leap. Gaka's swordsmanship is fast and ruthless, and with the dog fruit, jackal shape, comes and goes like the wind. Next, once again withstood Crocodile's attack. We are the guardians of this country, and you will never be allowed to do anything wrong. Crocodile already felt deeply in the face of the two masters, in half-orc form. Tired. The weak. The golden machete in his hand turned, like the unpredictable wind in the desert, and like the sand that buries everything. A round and a draw, out of thin air, gave birth to a powerful attraction that devoured everything by quicksand. At the same time, the light of the knife circulated, like a scorching sun, and the surrounding air was distorted, tilted, and bizarre, like a mirage. Look at what is called swordsmanship. Bad. The two vice-captains, Bel and Gaka, are not weak. Unfortunately, Alabasta, who is deliberately blocked by the world government, is still in a feudal society with technology, and even martial arts are lacking. Seriously speaking, the swordsmanship of the two was nothing more than a wild way that they practiced hard day and night. As Crocodile broke out with the swordsmanship of the swordsman level, he instantly caught them off guard. The strength of the two swords was as if they were smashing into the void, and the castration was twisted and turned, and they were unable to do what they wanted. On Crocodile's other hand, the huge golden hook slashed towards Gaka mercilessly. Let Bel jump forward suddenly in shock, and block forward with his arm. Iron Feather. Brush Lala, the wings that instantly turned from arms into wings blocked the golden hook, but were pierced with a puff. Fortunately, Gaka, who turned into a jackal next to him, had already reacted, and the long knife in his hand turned towards Crocodile and slashed towards the door, forcing him to retreat. However, before the two vice-captains could let go, they staggered forward involuntarily and fell forward involuntarily. Under their feet, it suddenly turned into a piece of quicksand. Sand battlefield. At the moment when the two vice-captains were destroyed, Crocodile had already stepped on the yellow sand and rushed over as if sliding on the ground. One side is bound, and the other is accelerating. In the blink of an eye, the black fur coat passed between the two vice-captains in an instant. At the same time, the golden machete in Crocodile's hand is cleverly walking an arc, like an unpredictable whirlwind. Avoiding the swords of the two of them, they slashed diagonally to the point of their throats. Sand cuts your throat. Poof, X2. With a soft sound, the two vice-captains fell to the ground with their throats covered. If it weren't for the super vitality given by the Zone Devil fruit, I'm afraid they would be finished with one move. Weak. The invincible Crocodile turned around and defied the audience. The blood dripping from the golden machete in his hand seemed to fall heavily on everyone's heart. It's a sin. How could this be? Originally thought that the advanced combat power of the entire kingdom was gathered, but after being restrained by the rain, why should there be a fighting force? Why still? Seeing that the elite of the king's army, the leader of the rebel army, and the two vice-captains were all defeated, Vivi, who gritted his teeth, was blank, and he didn't even know what was supporting him. Such a desperate disparity. Snapped. A straw hat was put on her head, and a figure in a red waistcoat occupied the blue-haired princess's dim eyes. Okay, it's my turn to play. Snapped. Luffy, who was walking on straw sandals, stepped forward and looked at Crocodile seriously. The fighting intent rising like wolf smoke made Crocodile's attention also fall on him. It gave Roman a chance to use paper streamers to drag the seriously injured people away. A defeated general. If I can kill you once, I can kill you twice. Although Crocodile, who scattered the going machete, took off the cigar and flicked the soot, looked contemptuous, his Vivi leaning forward was not as relaxed as he said. Vivi, everyone, I am sorry. I lost to this guy once. Luffy looked up at Crocodile, who was wet, and put on an empty-handed fighting posture. But now, you have created such a favorable situation for me. The cadres in the Baroque Works room were all defeated by Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, and Chopper. Nami cracked the opponent's most invincible elementalization and large-scale skills through artificial rain. Although I don't understand why Roman has to spend a lot of time on the arrangement all this, but in Luffy's intuition, the sand crocodile is indeed the weakest time. It's over, everything. Facing Luffy's declaration, Crocodile's forehead jumped with blue veins. If you can do it. Rubber gun. Brush. A long fist suddenly shot at Crocodile, but how could such a straightforward attack possibly hurt him? As he tilted his head to avoid him, his deadly right hand that had been prepared grabbed Luffy's arm with a snap. In the blink of an eye, I can suck you dry. Useless. Just when Crocodile was stunned, Luffy kicked both feet, and the whole person came to him in the air, and the fist clenched in the other hand was raised high. Bad. Bang. The cigar in his mouth flew out, and Crocodile, who was stunned, had not recovered yet. The perennial comfort abuse of vegetables had already made him forget how deadly it was to lose his mind in battle. A pair of hands already grabbed his shoulders suddenly, and Luffy spun around suddenly, his arms twisted into tight circles. Damn, next he's going to. Circular saw. Woohoo. Luffy, who suddenly turned at a high speed, kicked him. Although Crocodile had foreseen this attack, what was the use? How can you fight back when your hands are tightly grasped? Take the head. Boom. Crocodile, who barely avoided the key point of his chin, was finally kicked and flew out. And Luffy didn't give him a chance to regain his breath at all, and the whole person suddenly jumped up at the same time. The characteristics of the rubber allowed his fists to do dozens of punches per second. The shadows of the fists in the sky rushed towards the flying crocodile like dense cannonballs. Rubber, cannon. Boom 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 boom. Crocodile was instantly drowned in the shadow of the fist, causing everyone else watching the battle to take a deep breath. This kid is so scary. But not enough, not enough. Only Roman knows that this is just the beginning. Although it seems that Luffy's set of continuous skills has stunned Crocodile, in the end Crocodile no, it should be said that the further back the Great Root is, the more bloody cattle. If you want to hit one-hit kills, only a swordsman like Zoro, a swordsman who can slash iron steadily and has his own mood, can be considered a swordsman. And with fists and feet. Hey, the organs are exhausted, and in the end, we still need to see who is more durable. Then, touching the wound in his abdomen, Roman wisely gave up his plan to join the chapter. Just bet everything on Luffy. Look at you, Captain. Chapter 86 Fusion Skill Hockey Resistance. Bang, bang, bang. Crocodile, who flew out like a dash, seemed to have given up resistance, and Luffy also remembered Roman's exhortation, don't give the opponent a chance to retaliate, and suddenly rushed to continue the pursuit. Both reached the edge of the square almost simultaneously with the front and back feet, but enough is enough. In the indifferent voice, one rolled back and got up neatly. With a snap, Luffy's fist was held in the right palm by Crocodile who turned up. And as expected. Sure enough, I can't suck you dry because of this. On the surface of Luffy's body and fists, there are also layers of Roman's life paper. Why, don't you feel ashamed to use someone else's power to duel? In the face of Crocodile's provocation, who was scattered all over, Luffy just looked at each other seriously, without a trace of dodge in his eyes. There's certainly no problem with borrowing the power of a companion. It should be said that the word companion exists only to support each other and go on. Bang! The other hand struck a blow with the opponent's golden hook, and both sides retreated at the same time. Luffy is now stronger than usual. This is of course because of Roman and his fit skills. Paper dance. Rubber. Knight Luffy. So, you are a pirate, why are you meddling? Crocodile spread his hands, his face speechless. What do you think you are? Marine who writes justice on his back? Or a hero, who is righteous. Or, no. Luffy clenched his fists, because Vivi is our partner. Hey, do you know what you're talking about? You're going to risk your life for a guy you've only met for a while. What did that princess promise you? I can give you 10 times. Because you made Vivi cry. This crocodile, who tried to launch a mouth cannon, finally felt the same pain as Roman, and the other party was not on the same channel as you at all. Whoever makes my partner cry, I will never forgive him. However, Luffy's serious expression and firm eyes made Crocodile speechless, because his observation haki clearly felt the opposite boy. Whether it's body or soul, it's all the same. Partner. The gnashing sand crocodile slowly leaned down, revealing an attacking posture. One or two are holding this kind of boring fantasy. Where do you think the Great Root is? How cruel do you think the world of pirates is? The Great Root is a place full of adventure, and the world of pirates is our adventure experience. Luffy's words interrupted Crocodile's anger, causing the Straw Hats and Vivi to smile. Well said, Captain. Luffy, come on. Beat that bastard Crocodile. HMPH, this guy. Ha ha ha. Roman, who was sitting in a wheelchair, rubbed his cheeks. He had disarmed and turned to focus on covering Luffy with paper. If you want to ask why he dares to be so big, of course it is because Nicole Robin. The tall intellectual beauty in a white trench coat was already standing next to Roman, looking like she was her own. Instead of codename Miss Baroque Works Room Top Cadre all Sunday. I am sorry, boss. No, Mr. Crocodile. Unfortunately, I have decided to resign, just now. You. Okay, Mr. Crocodile, don't pretend. Roman waved his hand. You're going to kill Nicole Robin the moment you reach your goal anyway, so you don't trust her at all. Or you don't trust anyone. As opposed to. Roman raised his chin, facing Luffy who was confronting Crocodile. This is my captain. Compared to my captain's bearing, Mr. Sand Crocodile, with all due respect. You're like a dog. It's not a curse, but the best portrayal of Crocodile's current expression. Envy, jealousy and hatred are written on his hideous face, as if he is homeless and wandering in the wind and rain, facing the lights with the same eyes as a wild dog. Court death. Meow. The figure flashed, and the black coat quickly enlarged in Roman's pupils, causing Nico Robin next to him to subconsciously fold his hands on his chest to prepare to activate his ability. But, meow. A figure with a red waistcoat and short black hair stood in front of Roman. With a harsh crash, the fist wrapped in layers of white paper forcibly withstood the golden machete in Crocodile's hand. You. What do you want to do to my companion? Rubber boy. Baroque Works room was completely wiped out, and the Straw Hats were all wounded. Now the duel between the two captains remains. Their victory or defeat not only determines the fate of the two ships, but also determines the future of millions of people in the Kingdom of Alabasta. Rumbling. Watching Crocodile and Luffy tumbling and fighting together, the buildings collapsed and the plaza cracked. Rao, who had confidence in Luffy, also held onto the armrest of the wheelchair with both hands, not knowing whether it was sweat or rain in his palms. He had to use the White Knight to cover Luffy with all his strength, without affecting his attacking movements, which required precise observation haki. Luffy's melee combat is definitely a master in the pirate world. After all, it was taught by Garp. In addition, Roman's life paper is immune to Crocodile's most terrifying water absorption ability, and the super high defense brought by layers of paper regardless of consumption. Knight Luffy already has the ability to fight against the opponent's chamber. Nami's artificial rain with dancing powder lasted for half an hour, and now it's half that time. And as long as the rain doesn't stop, then Crocodile's rust fruit will be continuously suppressed. The time is with me. This is the Nefertiti Palace of the Alabasta royal family, all solid rock buildings. At the same time, the whole city has long been sprinkled with water to keep it moist, and with the rain, the surrounding environment has no trace of desert. The location is mine. A series of obstructions and provocations had already made Crocodile's status greatly reduced. In addition, even if everyone around is not involved in the battle, murderousness and hostility will also distract Crocodile's observation hockey, while Luffy, who is wearing a paper, can be single-minded. People in need. The right time, the right place, the people and the people. If you can't win this way, then there's really no way. So, Luffy, beat up that crocodile. Luffy, come on. Captain. Kill him. Young man, please. All kinds of incentives turned into inexplicable mental fluctuations, wrapping around Luffy. On the other hand, Crocodile was left with only incompetent fury. Do you think you can defeat me like this? Under Roman's paper entanglement at all costs, Luffy's fists and feet dared to confront the opponent's golden hook sword. Even if there are occasional attacks that tear paper and fall on Luffy, his tough constitution can completely resist these attacks. So even though he was covered in blood, Luffy became more and more brave. On the other hand, Crocodile was already restless, especially the killing intent of the people in the outer circle was on his back, and the repeated refueling made him restless. HMPH, you can push me to such a degree. Don't underestimate my experience across the sea. At the moment when the desert sword in his hand slammed into Luffy's fist again, the sword light flashed. Crocodile repeated his old trick, and the huge attraction on the knife suddenly pulled in a circle, pulling Luffy's fists away, and then the other hand's golden hook slammed into the opponent's head. In order to ensure the power of this blow. Armament wrap. Under the long battle, Crocodile always used his trump card. If observation hockey still has talented people who can learn without a teacher in the first half of the Great Route, then armament hockey is a top secret of top secrets. Armament hockey can improve personal defense, acting like invisible armor. It can also evolve into attack power, and then compete with the Devil Fruit ability, and even touch the entity of the Logia Fruit ability. To put it simply, armament hockey has the function of restraining the Devil Fruit ability in addition to offense and defense. Die, rubber boy. Even if you wear that kid's paper, even if it is your rubber fruit ability, in front of my armament hockey, it will all be penetrated. Bang! The huge golden hook slammed into Luffy's forehead, and in an instant, the entire battlefield fell silent. All of them stared at Luffy, who was hit on the forehead by Crocodile. In their eyes full of concern, there was only the sound of raindrops falling. Katakana middle dot. Luffy. Don't worry. Facing Vivi, who subconsciously stretched his hand forward, although Roman waved to stop her, he didn't notice that his voice was trembling. He was caught directly from that elementalization by the opponent's armament hockey. Hee. Only on the square where the raindrops fell, Luffy's voice suddenly sounded. If everyone else was just surprised and greatly relieved, Crocodile in the face of Luffy was shock, horror, fear, dread. Looking up, ignoring the blood left on his forehead, Luffy just bared Isho. Your soft attack is much worse than my grandfather's fist. Ha 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 ha. Roman was the first to react, covering his forehead and laughing wildly. It doesn't mean anything else, it's just that I feel ridiculous about my worry just now. If anyone in the Straw Hats has the highest resistance to hockey, there is no doubt that it is Luffy, who is often beaten by the top armament hockey. A mere sand crocodile, armament hockey is really not worthy of your shoes in front of Luffy's grandfather Garp. You. But Crocodile didn't know that. In his opinion, the other party actually mocked him as being worse than an old man. Tolerable or unbearable. Garp, to put it mildly, your hockey is a piece of shit. Chapter 87 Decisive Fist. Crocodile's End. How could this be? Fists and feet clash, knife hook parry. In the rain curtain, two figures are fighting to the death. Come on, Luffy. Captain, beat him up. Come on. Crocodile was disturbed by the disturbing voice in his ear, and he wished he could hit the flies with a desert sword, but bang! An increasingly heavier and heavier fist hit his golden machete, making Crocodile's arm go numb, and he almost couldn't hold the desert sword in his hand, let alone kill those around him. Rubber. Concentrate. The opponent is about to attack. For a moment, Crocodile, who was restrained, stared at Luffy, who jumped up and threw a fist in front of him, and a vague, Luffy figure appeared in his eyes, twisting his waist and exerting force. His body was like a bow, and the direction of his fist was katakana middle dot. Left. Can hide. Bang. Gun. In the next instant, there was a numbness from the left side of his face, and Crocodile, who stumbled backwards, was buzzing in his head, and there was only one thought left. How can this happen? Snapped. Standing still in the rain, Crocodile, gasping for breath, looked at her legs, which were actually vivi trembling. He wanted to laugh, but the corner of his mouth only pulled out an ugly extent. It turns out that my physical strength can't keep up with my mind. After so many years of comfort, did you actually make yourself unable to continue fighting for half an hour? Who? The Straw Hat Boy on the opposite side is also panting heavily. It seems that in this high-intensity battle of life and death, his physical strength is also being greatly consumed anyway. It is time to end all this. Straw Hat Boy, I recognize you as a strong man. After dispersing the desert sword in his hand, the intact right hand took off the front part of the going hook in his left hand, revealing a small hollow iron hook inside. From the new group. Now, let's show you the battle of the pirates. The hook has been removed. After a few breaths, Luffy regained some strength and looked at the hollow iron hook in Crocodile's left hand. What's that? It's a poison needle. Not Crocodile's kind reminder to Luffy, but a deterrent. As long as the other party's attention is on this poisonous hook, it will invisibly tug on the other party's hands and feet, making him timid. Really? However, the opposite Luffy just replied plainly, neither afraid nor afraid, just like Crocodile. Perform a monkey show. Very well, the battle between pirates is all about doing everything. Looks like you don't even know what fear is, but this is the last time. Meow. Suddenly rushing forward, the black fur coat behind him spreads out like ominous wings, and the poisonous hook in his left hand is the key to victory. Since the other party has nothing to fear, that's even better. Because this is a highly poisonous poison that can kill the Sea Kings, as long as you rub a little wound. Bang. Snapped. The speed of the two who started fighting again on the battlefield has gradually slowed down. It is no longer the kind it used to be, and even the surrounding little masters can't react to the high speed. Punching and kicking, blood and sweat are constantly splashing. There was also the silent cheer of the crowd clenching their teeth. Do you need me to help? Almost all the personnel on this battlefield were injured, and they all suffered serious injuries such as body fractures and visceral rupture. The only slightly injured Chopper and Sanji both bandage the wounded of the King's army and the rebel army, and Vivi's words forget it, there is only one master who is truly intact. Nicole Robin. The current Crocodile is already at the end of the battle. With Robin's strength and the characteristics of Wawa fruit, he already has the qualifications to intervene in the battlefield. Even if you are lucky, you might be able to kill the sand crocodile that cannot be elementalized in one move. No. Roman, who was in a wheelchair, focused on filling the broken defense on Luffy's body, but refused without looking back. This is our Straw Hats battle, and you don't need to take action. Really? Pressing the white cowboy hat on top of her head, the intellectual beauty named Nicole Robin hid her face behind the brim of the hat, not knowing what her expression was. Please don't forget your promise, Mr. Roman. Of course, the information I told you is enough to prove my sincerity. Puff. Luffy. Damn. Doctor, call a doctor. Don't panic. X2. Roman and Zoro blocked the excited Straw Hats from left to right, and the battle had reached the most critical moment. Luffy was slashed on the shoulder by Crocodile's hook just now, although Roman has been covering Luffy with new papers, but Roman's own physical strength is about to reach its limit. Don't forget, a big hole was pierced in his stomach just yesterday. Devil fruit abilities also require stamina. Ha 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 ha, the winner is me. Although Luffy counterattacked and kicked him on the neck, Crocodile still laughed wildly. Soon, the toxin will spread to your body, and the outcome is already snapped. The galloping fist slammed into Crocodile's face, forcibly breaking the bridge of his nose, causing the sand crocodile who flew out to roar angrily. Why haven't you fallen yet? Your purpose is not in this country, right? Getting your own life for someone you haven't known for a long time. You're an idiot. You still don't understand, that Vivi snapped. With his hands on his knees, the poisoned Luffy gasped. I say that others don't want to die, but I try my best to help others. If I don't care about her, she will definitely be killed by you guys. So, as long as you give up this burden that you have just met for a long time. Facing Crocodile, who was already scared, trying to solve the problem with words, Luffy straightened up and roared. Because she's a partner. So I will never let her die. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Woo Luffy. Looking at Vivi, who was covering his mouth, tears falling like broken pearls, Roman touched his chin. Luffy, how dare you say that you can't flirt with girls? Even death. Facing Crocodile's question, Luffy, who was trembling all over, took a serious attitude. If you die. Just wait till you die. Snapped. However, before he could raise his fist, his feet softened, and Luffy suddenly fell to one knee. The crocodile on the opposite side was first stunned, and then ecstatic. Ha 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 ha. No matter how beautiful you say it, your body is still very honest. Can't stand up anymore. At the same time, the artificial rainfall in the sky has become more and more sparse and gradually stopped. Half an hour has passed. Ha 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 ha. See, God is on my side. The sand crocodile, with its arms outstretched, faces the sky on its back, eager to enjoy the warm sunshine. I'll bury all of you in the sand right now, and let you go to hell to reunite. You can't save anyone. Clang. As Luffy fell to the ground, Sanji took a step forward silently, and Zoro also drew out the word, Kadoichi, from his waist. But wait. Roman reached out his hand with a serious face to stop them again, because a familiar voice echoed in his mind. Roman, help me. This bastard crocodile has more power. Crocodile still has spare power. It's not that Roman doesn't believe Luffy, it's that they both look exhausted, but since Luffy said so, there must be his reason. After all, it was Luffy who was fighting against the opponent, not Roman himself. Only the opponent in the battle could best grasp the opponent's situation. Damn, why not? Roman. With the shouting of Luffy, who was half kneeling on the ground, no need to say anything, Roman in the wheelchair tilted his head to the side as if he had fallen asleep. Luffy, you. Roman's voice came from the White Knight, attached to Luffy's body. Now he is personally controlling the White Knight, and by the way, he can also. I have a few more punches at most, please. Good. Snapped. Luffy stood up again, his skin was blue and his face was haggard, but his eyes were still bright. How could it be? Wait a minute. Crocodile, who was stunned for a moment, saw 2 human breaths on Luffy's body. Behind Luffy, there is another teenager. Is that the boy who plays with paper? HMPH, you have to rely on others to stand up. Do you think you can win me over like this? Of course. I'm going to be the One Piece King of Pirates man. Meow. The figure flashed, and under Roman's push, Luffy suddenly rushed in front of Crocodile, and before he could react, his fist slammed into his chin from bottom to top. I'll surpass you. How can this happen? The scorpion venom must have worked. Even if it is controlled by the guy who plays with paper, this rubber boy should have no strength. Who do you think I am? Facing Crocodile's roar and the poisonous sting, he swung over. Luffy, who was controlled by Roman, bowed his head sharply and avoided the opponent's attack. Oops. The two overlapped, their observation hockey interfering with my judgment. Boom. He punched Crocodile's chest fiercely, and even the black fur coat behind him was lifted high by the force that penetrated his body. After flying back, Crocodile, who suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood, looked fierce. How on earth are you willing to fall? Swish. In Crocodile's right hand, the flying yellow sand once again formed the shape of a machete. It's just that this time is very different from the original Desert Sword. Desert King Kong Sword. This is a razor-sharp blade comparable to the Supreme Knife, and it is Crocodile's ultimate trick. It was once that he held the weapon to break into the new world. Just the weapon itself, no hockey blessing. How many years? Crocodile hasn't used this trick since the knife was split in two by the man's cloud cut, but it doesn't mean that its sharpness has regressed. Go to hell. Dangerous. In an instant, even if he was only attached to the White Knight, Roman gave birth to the illusion that he was about to be divided into two in the face of a sharp blade that cuts gold and jade. Hide. No. In the face of this sharp blade comparable to the Supreme Sword and 12 workers, Luffy raised his fist without hesitation to meet it. Rubber fist. This punch, there is no change, there is no move. Just an unremarkable punch. But Luffy's punch contained an invincible will to fight against beasts, people, and heaven. This is from the most original soul belief, from the purest life force. As if not to be shaken by anything, not to stop for any obstacle, the sky, the sea, the steel peaks, all must be in front of this fist. Broken. Puff. With a light sound, the Desert Diamond Sword, which is said to be comparable to the Supreme Great Sword and 12 workers, shattered silently like a real sandpile toy. Crocodile's last ultimate move was squashed, smashed, and spread in an instant. Before the spread of gravel flew away, Luffy's fist pushed the mass of yellow sand back and smashed it back on its owner. Click. The fist slammed into Crocodile's chest, and what terrified him even more was a mental shock that despised the world, swept all directions, and dominated his body, destroying and galloping in his body along the fist, paralyzing the nerves of his whole body. Like 1,000 the army is generally rushing to Crocodile's mind. Ba Wong color. How can this happen? Crocodile, who didn't even finish the last sentence, instantly turned into a cannonball and flew down from the palace square fiercely. Crash the building, crash the house, crash everything. After drawing a crack, hundreds of meters long in the city, it finally fell into a deep pit. However, the pale eyes and motionless body already indicated the outcome of the battle. Chichibukai, Sand Crocodile, Crocodile. Lost. P.S. I wanted to end a chapter, but I almost typed 4,000 words. Luffy broke out. Armament, temporary version, accumulated by Grandpa's beating, and Conqueror, not entanglement in the last punch. Which is a normal mental shock, and a small shock to only one target. This shouldn't be considered a hang-up anymore, at least it's more reasonable than the version after getting poisoned and getting up, shaking the Desert King Kong sword with bloody fists probably. Finally, I should write it like this, right? Well, by the way, ask for a ticket or something. Chapter 88 Fruit of Victory Recuperate. Rain. It's raining all over the kingdom. As Crocodile fell, the artificial rain that had ended had turned into natural rain. Covers the whole of Alabasta, as if to make up for 3 years of drought. So, it's all over. Alabasta ended in a spooky way. At the critical moment when the 700,000 rebel army approached Albana, the capital of the kingdom, the Marine headquarters, Smoker Rear Admiral, was alert to discover the unusual place in this rebellion, and led many Marine soldiers headed by Tashigi Ensign to bravely move forward. 500 words omitted. finally successfully stopped the rebellion and saved thousands of Alabasta people from the fire. Won the praise of the Alabasta nationals and carried forward the Justice, Wind of Marine, 500 words omitted. During this period, Smoker Rear Admiral, with the help of the Alabasta royal family and some adventurers, debunked the original Shichibukai, Shaw Crocodile's terrifying, kleptocratic, conspiracy, once again proving to the world Marine's firm, justice, position. PFF. Looking at the newspaper in his hand, Roman could imagine the stinky and hard-tempered Smoker's face as black as coal when he saw these reports. I'm afraid the White Hunter will be angry with the Black Hunter. It appears that the government's facade work is exactly the same no matter where it is. Putting down the newspaper, Roman looked at the many beds in the room. Severely wounded with the straw hats on it, Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, Sanji. Nami is just a skin injury, and Chopper is the best one. Currently exchanging medicine with the royal physician in Alabasta while making sound plans for the recovery of others. 2 days have passed. 2 days ago, after the palace square was in ruins, the Straw Hats finally managed to turn over the sand crocodile. Although Luffy was poisoned on the spot, lost blood and fainted, but Roman was there would not be such a bad thing as casualties after the victory. In fact, Nicole Robin had a hunch that she would fall out with Crocodile. So she had already quietly prepared an antidote for Crocodile's sting, and even a sealed seastone knife. Don't ask. Asking is a test tube of water to kill a crocodile alone, which is an insult to Robin Sauce's IQ. It's a pity that these things didn't come in handy in the end, but the antidote gave Luffy a solution. Then, Nicole Robin floated away, and neither the Straw Hats nor Alabasta had any fighting strength to stop her, so they acquiesced to the other party's departure. It didn't take long for it to follow, as if the police in the TV series were long overdue. When Smoker arrived with marine reinforcements, he was faced with a comatose crocodile and the cadres of the Baroque Works room who were running down the street. And, this guy has done so much evil and was knocked to the ground by passing heroes. The hero has hidden merits and fame. You Marine's report, read and write it yourself, the Alabasta royal family. As for Marine, believe it or not. Anyway, our Alabasta royal family believed it. Have opinions. Ask the guns in the hands of the 200,000 soldiers in our kingdom and the 700,000 anti-militia outside. Smoker isn't a crocodile, and he doesn't have the strength of a single enemy. What's more, Alabasta is a member of the world government, and the world government is still Marine's immediate boss. Rounding up, Alabasta can also be regarded as the gold owner of Marine. So, after taking the crocodile and Baroque Works cadres in custody, Smoker left Albana pinching his nose. As for the follow-up reports in Roman's hands, don't think about it, the world government must have put the credit on Smoker. Can't let the government admit that the Shichibukai that he canonized as not only conspiring to steal the country, but also being turned over by a group of new pirates who have just entered the Great Route. Even more embarrassing, Marine plays the role of being blinded and beaten. How is this possible? My world government is shameless. Anyway, we're all right now. Roman patted the newspaper and touched his chin to recall. Even if after Luffy and Zoro's bounty comes out, the one who really came to arrest the Straw Hats is a Smoker's Black Sil, Hina. There is also a translation of Black Prisantina, and the rank is the same. Colonel, from the new group. Although this colonel is considered a good hand, there is no sign of Marine's real high-level officers. After all, in Roman's view, as long as it's not a young stunner, it's about Smoker and Hina. Wouldn't the first reaction to see Luffy's name think of the legendary Vice Admiral Garp? You must know that in this world, there are very few people who dare to put a D in the middle of their name. With such an obvious surname, calm generals are definitely not willing to do things absolutely, or when Garp hits a sap, who can reason? Sengoku. Don't worry, isn't Marshal Sengoku's office the Garp Vice Admiral's lounge? Going there to reason is not begging for a fight or something. So, let's take a rest here and set off safely. Finally pushed off a big booze, there is no need to rush and run away. Anyway, Roman used the White Knight for a long time. Going merry drove to a port city on the East Blue Shore and hid. There are local rebels now, the Alabasta militia should be called to take care of it, to ensure that the marine cruising marine is doomed. Can't catch it. If there is any influence, it is probably the friendship between Mr. Tuvon Clay and the Straw Hats. Forget it, such trivial matters are irrelevant. Anyway, how to say it in that sentence? As long as they are friends, they will meet unexpectedly one day on this sea. My God, this medicine is amazing. After watching Chopper's medical skills, Alabasta's court physician looked surprised, but it's very reasonable, too clever. May I ask who you are tutoring? It must be a very good doctor, right? Chopper, who had just turned into a stranger, suddenly became naive, and pushed a cup of hot tea over while pulling out the chair next to him. It's annoying, don't stare at me. You idiot. Go away, you bastard. Ah, just take it as, please take a seat, please drink tea. Roman next to him waved his hand and saw Vivi who was approaching. He had already taken off his combat uniform and put on a short-sleeved long skirt at home. He also had a wash-basin towel in his hand. Vivi, come to see Luffy again. Ah. Tisk tisk tisk, a princess of a country wipes sweat and washes herself. Luffy, you big king. I'm going to see how the others are injured. Roman is no longer making light bulbs here. He got up and went to the next room to open the door. Inside was the wounded who also lay in the same room. The 4 elite, Bird Claw, of the king's army and the leaders of the rebel army, but the 2 vice captains Gaka and Bell, who had their throats cut, had zone devil fruit in their bodies, and they could be alive on the same day. The 4 commanders deal with the funeral. Mr. Roman, we. Facing Kosh's doubts, Roman smiled and shrugged. Sorry, the water I give you is diluted. So you'll probably be weak for half a month, but it's probably a little hard to die. Well, the fact is that when you played against Crocodile, what you burst out was your own power. So don't underestimate your potential. Why? I lied to you because my captain wanted a happy ending for everyone. Wouldn't you mind? Faced with Roman's problem, whether it was the king's army or the rebel army, everyone bowed their heads in earnest. No. Without you, we can't even imagine the dark future for our beloved country. Thank you so much. X8. No, Roman waved. The one you should thank is our captain. When Luffy recovers, you can thank him. Since it seems that these people are almost recovered, Roman Reigns is relieved, and he still has a lot of things to deal with. Although, go to the gate of opening by the door, and turn around. Luffy certainly doesn't care. Bang. The wounded who left the room looked at each other in dismay. Really? A bunch of dashing heroes. Chapter 89 Historical Text Desalination. This way, Mr. Roman. In the royal tomb on the west side of the palace, Vivi's father, the middle-aged King Nefertiti Cobra, is waiting here solemnly. King Cobra, please don't call me, sir, just call me by my name. Facing Roman's words, the middle-aged man on the opposite side nodded gently, instantly changing from a majestic king to a friendly uncle next door. Then Roman, you have to call me Cobra, or Uncle Cobra, too. It's always the king's king, doesn't it seem very outrageous? That's right. Then, Uncle Cobra, Roman was kind about what I proposed. Well, your intelligence is accurate. Even more accurate. I can clearly know that Nefertari keeps the Pluto manual, and even knows that in the mausoleum, except for the Nefertari royal family, there are only those. It's here. As the middle-aged king stroked an inconspicuous figurative decoration in the mausoleum, a passageway into the ground cracked open in the otherwise empty floor. That historical stele is in there. Very good. Facing the legendary battleship Pluto, that destroyed an island with one shot. Roman was unmoved, but turned his head to look at the stone pillar of the mausoleum next to him. Nicole Robin. As you can see, I've kept my promise. Step, step. A tall figure in a white trench coat and a white cowboy hat turned out from behind the stone pillar, and it was the top cadre of the Baroque Works room, Miss All Sunday. This is. Yes, that's your target, the historical stone. Roman stepped aside and made a, please, gesture to the passage below. And the intellectual woman named Nicole Robin took a deep look at Roman and walked towards the passage below. No matter what awaits her in it, at least this is the closest she has come to the historical text. So never give up. Aren't you going to go down and have a look? As Nicole Robin entered the underground tomb, King Cobra, who was guarding outside, chatted with Roman casually. What are you looking at? A big rock you don't know. Roman leaned on the stone pillar next to him indifferently. I know what you are worried about, Uncle Cobra. It's nothing more than the Pluto fell into the hands of the ambitious family, and then what's going on? Speaking of which, I was quite surprised that you didn't ambushing 300 axemen around. Although the father of Vivi, the king of Alabasta in the original book of the previous life, was notoriously wise, but in the face of events that may cause chaos in the world, the more wise the king is, the more decisive he is. Judging from the fact that the other party did not hesitate to blow up the tomb in the original book, the other party is definitely not an innocent and stupid person. He, Roman you bastard. You're so scheming when you're young, why can't you be as frank as everyone else? Facing the teasing of the middle-aged man next to him, Roman rubbed his forehead. Sorry, I have to take care of this naive guy, especially our captain, who must think about all the issues that should be thought by them alone. But you can rest assured. I'm not interested in Pluto. Roman pointed to the tunnel next to him with a thumbs up. The woman inside is also not interested in Pluto at all. You may not believe it. She is just a simple archaeologist. Therefore, there is no need to kill. Although Alabasta doesn't have any masters who can kill Roman or Nicole Robin. Tapping. Soon, Nicole Robin came out of the secret passage, looking at her disappointed expression and what a surprise, I thought there were already 300 elites waiting for me outside. I really want to take you down. Roman rolled his eyes, but he didn't expect that there were people who thought exactly the same. I am alone. Then, Nicole Robin spread her hands. Do you want to do it? Come on, let's go, I've fulfilled my promise. After the nearby King Cobra turned the mechanism to close the tomb, Roman and the middle-aged king decisively turned and left, leaving Nicole Robin with a stunned face. Of course I believe you, Roman. But that woman named Nicole Robin. After the two came out of the royal tomb, they walked all the way to the north of the palace. Compared with the uninhabited west side, these are simply 5 steps per person, 10 steps and 1 whistle. There are even soldiers lying on the ground listening to the underground to prevent those capable of burrowing. Although in front of a real expert, such defense is just a waste of effort, but Your Majesty, please show your password. Newborn. Please pass, Your Majesty. Well, in the face of serious soldiers, Roman naturally wouldn't say something unpleasant like, you're just doing useless work. Don't worry. Roman took over the topic of King Cobra just now. I know Nicole Robin quite well. As I said before, she's not a careerist, she's just a simple archaeologist. Besides, thinking of my own hint, with that woman's dedication to the historical text, most of them will choose to get on Luffy's boat. It won't be long before Uncle sees the news of her joining the Straw Hats in the newspaper. Well, I trust you. Although it is not the behavior of a king to be so emotional, but Nefertiti Cobra is a great monarch who loves his people like sons and is dedicated to his people. Your Majesty the King. Mr. Roman. As Cobra and Roman entered the heavily guarded building, Ekalem, the captain of the palace guard with curly blonde hair, greeted them. Well, he was the Baroque Works cadre Mr. 8 that he met in Whiskey Hill. The surface was blasted into the sea by Robin, but in fact the other party let him live. This room is filled with all kinds of experimental equipment, huge water tanks, and various pipes. Someone once said that technology is the primary productive force. Roman came to a container that had been built according to his requirements. With a wave of his hand, sheets of special white paper fell into it, dividing the container into two sides. Even in this world. Roman nodded to a few old men who were at most craftsmen, not to mention scientists. As they pulled the valve, a huge amount of water poured into the container, then permeated the other side of the container, and finally came out of the faucet. Clear water. Is this really drinking water? God, it's a miracle. It's a gift from God. In an instant, several old people laughed and danced as if possessed by magic, and even Ecolem, who had always been calm, trembled in his hands and feet. He stepped forward to take a glass of water, took a sip himself, and then brought it to King Cobra. Your Majesty, really? Gollum. He grabbed the water glass and drank the liquid inside. The middle-aged king closed his eyes and felt silently for a while, then suddenly opened his eyes. Turning to Roman Reigns. Boom. Kneel down. Mr. Roman, on behalf of the millions of Alabasta's people. Thank you very much. The only thing that can make the king of a country so excited is seawater desalination technology. Hey, get up, said Roman, who forcibly helped him up, twitched the corners of his mouth. If Vivi sees this, he will beat me up. Of course, just kidding. Technology is the primary productive force. Facing the reverse osmosis desalination device in front of him, Roman snapped his fingers. Wow! Pieces of white paper flew out of Roman's body and folded into a neat square in the room. Make other people around look at these blank sheets as if they were looking at going. Paper Dance, Purifying Water, Chapter 17. In fact, the devil fruit is not only used for fighting, but also a bug for people's livelihood. Originally, it was only the method used by Roman to purify seawater on Going Merry, if it is used on a large scale in Alabasta. I can't stay in Alabasta for long, though. So, you still need to test out the appropriate filter material by yourself. Before that, you can use the paper I made to top it. Roman pointed to another, disc solar still, next to him, the solar method, with your vast coastline in Alabasta and sufficient sunlight exposure, is actually the easiest and most convenient method of desalination. Although I don't want to question your traditions, just waiting for the old days to reign is not the kind of tolerance a human being should have. With these, even if there is another sand crocodile, it will not cause this situation. Man will conquer the sky. This is the secret of human beings standing on top of all things. Chapter 90 Luffy awakens inventory strength. On the third day. How is it, Nami? In the training ground of the palace, Nami held the Best of Thieves in her hands and concentrated on it. And in the open space in front of her, a small yellow salon tornado flutters about. Twist, 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 twist. It's hard to say if there was any harm, but it looks pretty fun. Well, I found a little feeling. As Nami spoke, the miniature sandstorm in front of her collapsed. Nami pouted in disappointment. In 2 days, I can only figure out such a small sand spinner. It seems that my understanding of weather is not enough. Crocodile, please open mic wind exchange. There is no doubt that the 4th and 5th pages of The Art of Thieves, spread out in Nami's hands, are all filled with yellow sand that fills the sky. Vicissitudes. The Sasha pages, sponsored by Mr. Crocodile, is the most suitable for a navigator like Nami in Roman's opinion. At least it's more reliable than the huge weather stick, and if it goes well, then Nami's strength will have a huge leap. Of course, knocking over the zone dinosaur fruit with a stick, hehehe. Why not develop capabilities like Arc Moon Dune? You must know that crocodile's strongest vegetable abuse is arc moon sand dunes, which can turn a group of people into mummies with one move. As long as it is not a hockey master or a special constitution, it is basically dead at the touch of a hand. No. Nami shook her head. As you said, the same fruit will develop different abilities for different people. The essence of this book is to steal the fruit ability of the other party by saving the blood of others. The upper limit cannot exceed the skills developed by the original owner, and at the same time, there is a coherence degree with the user, that is, me. Well, Roman touched his chin, that is to say, even with this book, you can only use crocodile's various desert storm-like abilities, and you can't play dry and desert swords a little weak. This is already very powerful, isn't it? Nami is powerless to complain. As long as she gives herself time, it is not impossible to develop a large sandstorm. Although it may seem sluggish to deal with the masters, but cleaning up the miscellaneous soldiers just like the previous self, how many times it is to deliver food. Okay, then come on. After Roman sobered up, launching this book consumed Roman's physical strength. But with Nami's current level of development, she can splurge at will. As for what to say next. By the way, you should also pay attention to the development of Tun fruit. The experience of Nami and the others escaping from Crocodile's cage reminded Roman that the Tun fruit itself has the characteristic of consuming creatures and converting them into physical strength. In the future, after learning Life Return, they will upgrade the rogue's art again. One time. Let the book be completely self-contained, with its own energy storage system. In that case, this book will be able to devour the Sea Kings on its own to replenish its stamina. There is no embarrassment that Roman was beaten and dropped, and Nami lost his combat effectiveness at the same time. Roman. Just as Roman was thinking seriously about how to strengthen Nami's fighting power, the girl beside her flipped her orange hair and looked to the other side as if nothing had happened. I'm very angry about this crocodile incident. Have you ever thought that if you died in the hands of the sand crocodile, we will all be very sad. The rest of the time will be spent in memories and pain, such a future. Sorry, it was my fault. Facing Roman's apology, Nami turned around and took his hand, her brown pupils reflected in Roman's eyes. Promise me, if you want to die, let me die first. I don't want to live in a world without Roman even if it's my selfishness. You will bear the pain. The breeze is gentle, like the moon before the flowers. I refuse. As the saying goes, do not seek to be born in the same year, the same month and the same day, but seek to be born in the same year and the same month. Of course, good brothers must join hands to cross the Santu River and step through the gate of hell together. The oath is sonorous, like the Taoyuan knot. Ah! Rubbing her orange bangs, Nami, who had no atmosphere, let go of Roman weakly. I am quite sure that you are Roman Benro. You are not eating paper fruit, but steel fruit. What? Who else am I if I'm not Roman? Mr. Point 2 Von Clay. Roman frowned, lost in thought. Not to mention the steel fruit or something. Let me recall that the owner seems to be an ugly and strong man. Hopeless. Just when Nami was covering her forehead speechlessly, an excited Vivi shouted from the corridor. Luffy is awake. What? I was in a coma for 3 days. Then did I lose 15 meals. When Roman and Nami came to the ward, they saw Luffy sitting cross-legged on the bed with a look of, I'm at a loss. Why are you turning your head so fast at this time? Nami complained that she couldn't. And it's still based on 5 meals a day. Usopp hits again. Okay, since the captain is alright. I don't know why Nami seems to be angry again, but it feels like it should be her fault. So Roman decided to liven up the atmosphere. Why don't we take stock of the upgrade of combat power after this battle? The air is suddenly quiet. Oh, interesting. Except for Zoro, who was instantly energized when he heard combat power, everyone else seemed to be lacking in interest. Well, at this time, I heard the captain is awake. A middle-aged woman with curly blonde hair walked in. "Wait a minute, dinner will be served right away." Saying that, she motioned to the servant behind her to push a cart of fruit to the hospital bed. "Before eating, eat some fruit." Hiccup. Everyone turned back suddenly, and the goal was the naked cart. And Luffy, who touched his stomach. "Are you here to perform magic? X5. Is this the legendary rubber gulp? Love. I think we'd better talk about combat power. After Crocodile, there is Sky Island, after Sky Island is Enies Lobby, then Gecko Moria, then Sabayati Land, top. If you don't work hard at this time, do you rely on opening and hanging in wartime?" Ha ha ha. Faced with Nami, who was smiling with her arms on her hips, everyone was full of question marks. Sorry, just thought. Luffy, who can never get enough to eat, and Roman, who has a phobia of lack of combat power as expected, you are more familiar with this. But when it comes to combat power, Luffy, who was sitting on the bed and moving his arms a few times, was eager to try. "I feel like I'm several times stronger than before." Katakana middle dot. It's not impossible, but it should be no problem if it is twice as strong. After playing Crocodile, Luffy's spirit and energy have improved a lot. In terms of bounty, it is at least about 80 million. Then can you hit the last punch against the crocodile? Facing Roman's question, Luffy rubbed his chin seriously, thinking about it. It seems to be possible, but it seems that it can't. Okay, that means there is absolutely no drama at ordinary times. It seems unrealistic to expect Luffy to acquire armament hockey, so. What about you, Zoro? Are you able to cut iron steadily? No problem. Zoro, who had changed into a black samurai uniform, nodded. But if you want to reproduce the state of hearing everything when you were fighting with Mr. One, maybe. Understood. That state will wait for you to be familiar with using it 2 years later. Don't think about it now. It seems that the 60 million bounty that the government will give Zoro is actually quite objective. Zoro, who has learned to have his own momentum, is almost in this rank. As for Luffy's 100 million bounty, it's obviously to kill. Because of this broken bounty, Blackbeard came to chase and kill Luffy. This is also the reason why Ace will not retreat, but now. With Roman, the big deal is to learn Wapple and dive into the sea. Could it be that Blackbeard can still play with a black hole and suck seawater? What's more, even if he loses, Roman still has a killer Luffy's identity background. As long as he shakes it out, Blackbeard has no desire to attack Luffy. After all, his purpose of catching hundreds of millions of pirates was to exchange for the identity of Shichibukai, to capture Garp's grandson to negotiate with Marine. I'm afraid I'm not going to be beaten by Garp and yell at Grandpa on the spot. Whitebeard. In fact, if it wasn't for Ace's good dad, One Piece King of Pirates Roger, who cheated on his wife and son. With Garp Sengoku's friendship, as long as Ace nods his head, it will be the scene of the triumphant return of the Marine teenage hero of the undercover pirate, and the school will start immediately. And, according to Roman's estimation, Blackbeard should be the weakest time now. Blackbeard used to be a strong fighting technique, otherwise he couldn't keep a hand on the redhead face. However, after obtaining the dark fruit, he patronized the development of the fruit, and even prioritized the use of the fruit's ability against the enemy, which made his attack connection have obvious flaws. First escaped by Ace, and then punched by Luffy at Impel Down. Although this would not be an opportunity for the Straw Hats to defeat the opponent, there should be no problem in escaping. So strictly speaking, Blackbeard is not a big threat to the Straw Hats at all. But the explosive growth of Luffy and Zoro makes Roman feel the pressure. If the fruit ability is not used, the current Roman is no longer the opponent of Luffy and Zoro. And even with the addition of the fruit ability, on the premise of not using shameless elementalization, I'm afraid it's hard to say who will win and who will win. This is the benefit of having a famous teacher laying a solid foundation. As long as he can break through in a desperate situation, his combat power will immediately soar. Looks like you have to work hard. Chapter 91 Festive Banquet Time of Parting. Click, click, click. Tun tun tun. Chew, chew. Knife and fork cut elegantly and calmly. Don't get me wrong, eating is elegant. In fact, only one person in the Straw Hat group can do this, that is. Hey, don't choke when you eat so fast. While cutting the steak in front of him with a knife and fork, Sanji reminded the chopper, who was holding chopsticks with his hooves. As for Roman, he frowned as he casually stuffed food into his mouth, still thinking about how to improve his combat effectiveness. Continue to develop fruit abilities. Or boost observation hockey. As for armament, I still have no clue. What the hell is attacking with all your heart? If you develop the fruit ability, you need a strong physique. However, such things as physical fitness can only rely on boring exercise day and night. I really envy Luffy's Return of Life, Eating Edition. As long as you eat and drink wildly, you can restore your physical strength, heal injuries and increase your physique. Snapped. She tilted her head and glanced at Nami next to her. The orange-haired girl silently grabbed the fork that Roman held to her mouth, and the bread on the fork was bright red. This is Usopp. Nami, who turned her head expressionlessly face to face, and Usopp next to her were all numb. It wasn't me, I didn't. Luffy made me do it. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Are you the White Lotus heroine of the romance drama? This kind of brainless denial has come out 3 times. Gee, but it doesn't matter. Is this plain hot sauce? Without changing his face, he put the bread in his hand into his mouth, and Roman chewed it a few times and swallowed the bread mixed with a huge amount of hot sauce. Roman, you. HMPH, if I can't handle this little hot sauce, it means that my stomach is no more than that. Did you get hit by something? It has changed from a phobia of insufficient combat power to a phobia of human beings. Nami was speechless. She had already defeated Shichibukai, Sand Crocodile, it was time to relax and celebrate. But Roman still looked tense, as if there were countless stronger enemies waiting for the Straw Hats in the future. How is that possible? Shaking her head, Nami threw away the strange thought. If you can't figure it out, it can only be attributed to Roman's simple, don't want to be a man. Hiss, is this the style of a strong man? Ha ha ha. After a full meal, of course, it is to take a hot spring, but at the same time when everyone is laughing and laughing. Roman frowned while thinking about what was in his hand. Roman, what's the fun in this? Luffy, who snatched the bracelet from Roman's hand, went soft and slipped into the water like noodles. My whole body is powerless. Help, I'm drowning. Can you drown in a half-person high hot spring pool? What's going on? Looking at Luffy, who was paralyzed in the pool, unable to get up and spitting bubbles, Zoro and the others, who felt that something was wrong, hurriedly picked up Luffy, who was soft to a puddle. It's a sea-stone-encrusted bracer. Roman took the hoop, handed over by Zoro, and a feeling of extreme weakness immediately ran through his body. It's like holding a heavy weight in your hands. This wristlet is inlaid with a piece of sea stone. As for the source, of course, it is sponsored by the generous crocodile. You must know that sea stone is a scarce resource. The cage dedicated to the ability lockers in the Crocodile Rain Banquet is nothing but an alloy iron cage inlaid with sea stone particles. Is there luxury enough to be made entirely of sea stone? So Roman asked the king's army to get rid of the sea stone particles on it, and quickly built a few bracelets. It was this thing in his hand. These bracers are inlaid with sea stone particles, which can greatly suppress the physical strength of devil fruit users. But on the other hand, it is an excellent exercise equipment for devil fruit powers. As he said that, Roman glanced at the side, leaving Luffy, who was performing the old dragon spit water, with a question mark on his head. Luffy of future was at Kaido's labor camp with Magneto, kid to move bricks with sea-stone handcuffs. Not only did he develop a good physique, he even learned how to use advanced armament. The Brick King reputation. Kaido's training site, those who have tried it say it's good. And as a devil fruit person, Roman's paper fruit is more inclined to creation, not Superman constitution, and when he eats the fruit, his own strength is close to 30 million, so Seastone's suppression of him has not reached the point of immobility. But Luffy just. The sea and Seastone are absolute weak points. There is no way for seawater, but something like Seastone can be resistant to it through training. And one more thing, Blackbeard's dark fruit can disable other fruits' abilities, which is very similar to Seastone's effect. It is also necessary to do targeted training in advance. Whoa! A head of hot water poured on Roman's head, interrupting his thinking. Ha ha ha, Roman, you bastard. Luffy, laughing wildly on his hips, showed 12 shining teeth. Thinking about combat effectiveness all day long. Everyone's, frankly, seeing each other, so you can't let go of your worries and play happily. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. No way, I want to see the day when your dreams come true. If you don't have enough strength, forget it. If you want to relax. HMPH, Roman, evil Isho, I'll let you know what terror is. Look at the trick, paper dance, Seastone handcuffs. Ha 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 ha, drown in your own bath water. Ah, I feel like my body is being hollowed out. Gollum, Gollum, Gollum. Luffy, Luffy, stay awake. Doctor, doctor, come soon. Aren't you a doctor? Really, can't these boys be quieter? On the other hand, Nami, who was enjoying Vivi's back rub, complained and looked around enviously. If only there was a boat with a hot spring. There must have been. Vivi recalled the short, but full of surprises. Giants, dinosaurs, cherry blossoms in snow-capped mountains. Compared with these, a ship with a hot spring looks very ordinary. That's right. Come on, it's my turn to rub your back. While rubbing Vivi's back, Nami spoke as if nothing had happened. We're going to leave tonight. The white back froze suddenly. Although he knew that day would come sooner or later, Vivi still didn't expect it so soon. No more. Well, there are more than 30 marine warships gathered outside. Nami shrugged and kept her hands on her hands. And the captain has also woken up. We are going to continue our journey. Is that so? Hey, fake, right. The captain of the Kingdom Guard, Ekolem, and the vice captains, Gaka and Bell, looked at the bounty on the table, and they were all shocked and angry. How can Marine move so fast? With such a high reward, Marine's generals will also be dispatched. There are 2 wanted notices on the table. One is Roronoa Zoro, with a reward of 60 million, and the other is Monkey D. Luffy, with a reward of 100 million. What is the concept of 100 million? Let the head of the Silver Light Pirates not hesitate to destroy all his crew, a devil fruit that can give all kinds of strange abilities, all the wealth of a kingdom's nobles. It is also a symbol of the big pirate. On the Great Route, only the bounty of hundreds of millions can be regarded as the number 1 person. Damn, they must be notified immediately. Ekolem, who grabbed the reward and rushed to the Straw Hat's room, slammed open the door, but under Gecko was only a row of neat beds, and Princess Vivi, where are Luffy and the others? Of course it's going to see. The blue-haired princess, who was sitting on a chair with her knees folded, lowered her eyes. Because they are pirates. Buzzing. With the sound of the propeller spinning at high speed, Paper Dance, Boeing 747 feet glides peacefully over Alabasta. Nami, are you not feeling well? In the cabin, everyone was sitting or standing, leaning or sleeping, only Nami bowed her head and remained silent. Why don't I give you a piece of my meat? This is a reluctant Luffy. Are you thinking about Vivi? It's no wonder. Sanji rarely smoked, but Vivi still bears the fate of a country. The others also had the same serious expression. Although they all regarded Vivi as a partner, the identity of the other party was doomed. No, my heart hurts. What about the Billy and Bailey who promised to help Vivi defeat the crocodile? This. So you're thinking about this. Bring back our sorrows, hey. Ha ha ha, otherwise, what do you think I'm thinking? Vivi can't go to sea with us, I don't know yet. Soon, everyone who had been carnival all day fell asleep. A figure in a suit walked silently to the cab ahead. Roman. Well, what's the matter? Sanji. Facing Roman, who was flying the plane, Sanji hesitated for a while, not knowing how to speak, and finally gritted his teeth. It's about Nami. I know. You know what? Sanji's eyes narrowed, and his anger slowly grew. You shouldn't doubt my intelligence. Bang. Roman's back slammed into the wall of the plane, and Sanji picked up his collar. Since you know everything, you still. Woo. The sound of turning over and Nami's unconscious sound came from the cabin, making Sanji's movements stagnant. Roman, what do you mean? Don't tell you have a fiancé or anything, or, you don't like Nami. Of course not. Nami is an excellent girl, and I know her intentions. But. Roman sighed, the reason is a bit complicated, you just think I don't have time to think about these issues for now. 4. Facing Roman, who didn't want to talk, Sanji finally let go of his collar and turned around. I don't know what you're afraid of, Roman. You are not even afraid of sand crocodiles, why are you afraid to face your own feelings? Anyway, this is what happened before you and Nami, and I shouldn't have asked about it. But gentlemen, you can't hurt a girl's heart. Facing Sanji, who went back to sleep, Roman rubbed his chin and smiled wryly. In the past life, I often saw those slogans shouting, XX is immortal, what is home? Should I also shout, what is home if you can't be admiral, now? Strength, strength. If there is admiral's strength, no, even if Shichibukai's strength, Roman will not turn a blind eye on purpose. However, only Roman knows how many powerful enemies are waiting in front of the Straw Hats, maybe not in the first place. What are you thinking? Roman shook his head mockingly. If there is no Straw Hats, I am afraid that I have become Blackbeard 2.0 feet now. Since he chose to stand in the sun, he must bear the corresponding price. Sorry, Nami, at least wait until the top is over. P.S. I always feel that you are going to scold me, but, for things like feelings, take your time. As soon as we meet, we swear to each other, that's just greedy. Chapter 92 Companion Mark Robin on board. Ha ha ha, I am the king of the sky. Luffy, standing above the Boeing 747 feet, opened his arms and shouted, making everyone who got off the airplane speechless. In a few days, you will be the king of the universe. Wow. As Roman retrieved the paper, Luffy, who fell on the sand, held down his straw hat unhappily. Roman, make me a smaller airplane to play with. Katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot. Hey, why don't you just use my abilities to go to sea? Just use this Boeing 747 feet to take everyone to the Great Route, and Luffy gallops by. Laugh at those hard workers who are sitting on rafts in the sea. As the saying goes, Army soil, Marine ocean, and Air Force are big hooligans. If you want to come and go, just go, it's so chic. Katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot. Going merry, so love goes away, right? Don't. What about going merry? Usopp burst into tears instantly. Don't, that's not fun at all. Luffy was also devastated. I lied to you. The Great Route, in such a strange and changeable bad weather with strong winds and waves, rely on my paper plane to sail. Not to mention Roman's pirated copy. Even if the real Boeing 747 comes to this world, it does not dare to change the seasons on this day. Lightning and thunder are the great daily routes. But if you think about it carefully, that iron lump is not necessarily as strong as Roman's paper airplane. In short, before my strength touches the Shichibukai threshold, I will be impatient with my ability to go out to sea, and I will be embarrassed to say that if I want to die. That's fine, that's fine. The two who were instantly resurrected patted their chests with lingering fears. Right. Roman looked at Luffy. If we're going to wait until 12 o'clock, there's no need to go sailing now. The location where everyone is now is on the outskirts of the eastern port city of Alabasta. Regarding Vivi's question, Nami gave her half a day to think about it instead of the Straw Hats. That is, at 12 o'clock today, the Straw Hats will start again from here. As for whether or not to get on board, of course, it all depends on Vivi's freedom. It's easy to get Marine's attention if we go sailing now. Strictly speaking, there are 3 marine warships cruising outside this port now. As long as Going Merry dares to show up, he will be served by cannonballs on the spot. Well, that makes sense. Luffy touched his chin. Then let's go. Wow. I already have a detailed exercise plan on how to spend this time. Pieces of white paper flew out, forming a huge training ground. By the way, there is also the bracelet in Roman's hands that made Luffy tremble. Come on, you're welcome. One Luffy chopper, I'll bring a pair. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot okay, x2. The tearful Luffy and Chopper silently took the Halu hand bracelet and put it on, and then. Ah, I feel like my body is being hollowed out. Oh, I can't do it. Okay, let's start exercising. Facing Roman, who was sweating with the sea stone bracers, and Zoro, who had silently lifted 2 boulders for a squat, Sanji pulled his collar and complained. I know that we are a pirate group. Those who didn't know thought we were a XXX fitness club. Don't underestimate the health club. Roman said while doing a quick sit-up. You must know that New World's Destruction Cannon, Idio is a fitness expert, and he is also the tyrant of the New World Central Fighting Conference, V2. According to the bounty, it is 200 million. Hi. Wait a minute. Has the Destruction Cannon won the fighting championship at this time? Forget it. Don't care about these details. 200 million. In an instant, Luffy's eyes next to him turned into stars. So powerful, I'm going to pull him into my boat. That's your future subordinate. Anyway, it's all about being idle anyway, and there's nothing wrong with exercising. At least it's faster to run away, right? So a group of people began to sweat and sing the praises of youth. Then, I didn't expect it to be so hard to exercise with this sea stone. After consuming a morning, a group of water people staggered up to Going Merry. The real step-by-step, the sweat all over it is air dry and wet, wet and air dry, dry and wet. I feel like I've been touched by a sand alligator. Chopper is half cooked. Water, give me water. Give. In the calm voice of the royal sister, a large wooden barrel was handed to Luffy, and after he picked up, tun, unceremoniously, it's cool, finally resurrected. Yours too. He handed the water cup to the crowd with one hand, and everyone who had been exercising all morning took the water cup and poured it into their throats. Thank you, X4. Then. PFF'd. X4. Why are you here? Is it for revenge? Ah, stranger. Nice miss. All Sunday. Facing the roaring Nami, Chopper, Usopp, Sanji. Well, Sanji's eyes have become, the whole person has been floating like seaweed. Huh, are you just reacting now? Roman took a sip of water and put down the glass. Looks like you can't relax with your observation hockey training. You devil coach. X3. Usopp and Nami were in tears, and Chopper was lying dead. For him, a reindeer living in the icy world, the desert environment is simply hell. Not to mention the sour one with thick fur after being dragged by Roman to frantically exercise. So, why are you a woman here? With his hand on the handle of the knife around his waist, Zoro, the only one who didn't take the water glass handed over by the other party, raised his brows. "Oh, it's you. Thank you for the antidote." On the contrary, Luffy's expression was calm, as if he was not the enemy of life and death in front of him. Nicole Robin. That's right, the person who appeared on Going Merry was this tall intellectual beauty. She took off her white fur windbreaker, which was very gangster-like, and changed into a shirt and trousers. Just. The two buttons on the top of the collar of the shirt could not be pulled together, and a pair of trousers looked like capri pants. "When did you get on the boat?" Facing Nami's question, the tall Robin moved a chair and sat down, calmly opening the book in his hand. "I've been on Going Merry, reading, taking a shower. As this outfit on me belongs to you, lend me to wear it." No wonder this dress makes people feel weird. It turned out to be Nami's clothes. "Roman, are you thinking of something rude?" "No, not at all." "Lying." Could it be that Nami has awakened? Observation hockey. Roman, who was touching his chin, thought seriously, making Zoro, who was next to him, couldn't stand it any longer. "Roman, I think you should learn expression management." Although Roman doesn't have the exaggerated yan yi, unique to the Straw Hats, he likes to touch his chin when he thinks about a problem, and he can't help looking at the sky when he opens his eyes and talks nonsense. These small details have long been thoroughly touched by others. Katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot. Don't pay attention to the details. It's important. Roman, who waved his hand to change the subject, looked at Nicole Robin, who had changed into a set of home clothes and started to read a book while lying on a chair. Although it was part of the deal with Roman, who said that the other party would appear here, the final decision must be made. Yes. As Going Merry slowly drove out of the hiding place, the marine warship on the sea immediately noticed the Straw Hat's skull flag on the ship. After drawing a circle, he galloped towards this side immediately. Of course, this is not the point that Roman Reigns cares about. The point is Ta-ta Dao. In a series of dense footsteps, a huge crocodile galloped towards the port. On it sat a blue-haired girl in a gorgeous dress, the Princess of Alabasta, the next heir to the kingdom, Neferutari Vivi. Oh, here comes Vivi. Stop, wait for Vivi to get on board. Following Luffy's order, Roman immediately told Going Merry to slow down, even though he knew that Vivi would not be on board. But how can there be a few marine warships that are important to have companions? If Luffy hadn't been running away from Marine, Roman would have been able to fly over and beat those 3 warships all over the place. Everyone. Vivi, who was waving to this side, took the phone bug on the run fast, and her voice came from the nearby port city. "I'm here to say goodbye to you." This. Luffy's face froze. "Sorry, I can't go with you. Thank you so much for this time." Katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot. Impossible, that's the Princess of Alabasta. Not to mention Going Merry, even the soldiers on the 3 marine warships surrounding them were sluggish. A princess of a country and a pirate, you can't mix it up anyway, right? "I'd love to go on an adventure with you, but..." Vivi's voice echoed in the sea. "I love my country. I decided to stay." If so, why wouldn't the daring Vivi not want to go out to sea with Luffy? But she is, after all, the Princess of Alabasta, the heir to the next king. She represents not only the royal family of Neferutari, but also the millions of people of Alabasta. A princess of a country, a prince of a country joining the pirates or something. Let the kingdom of Alabasta have a foothold in this world. Don't forget, this world is still the world government and the world of Marine. Is that so? Luffy smiled happily. If we meet again one day. The voice of Vivi, who had already burst into tears, did not need to be amplified by the phone bug, and it was clearly transmitted to Going Merry. "Are you still willing to call me a partner?" "It's impossible. That person is really the Princess of Alabasta, the next king." There was chaos on the marine warship next to it. It was as strange as seeing a cat and a mouse getting married. Of course, woohoo. Luffy, who was grabbed by Nami's ruthless iron hand, grabbed the lower half of his face and forcibly held back the words he blurted out. Roman next to him shook his head, stopping Luffy's struggle. Luffy, Marine is going crazy over there. He pointed his thumb to the side, and the 3 warships were clearly within range, but they looked like they were unmanned. So, stop provoking them. You must know that fornicating pirates is a first-class felony. Even the royal family can be killed on the spot. Of course, the pirate group that reared its own forces behind the scenes was basically the default rule of the game for most royal families. It's just that this kind of thing can't be put on the table. Roman is right, so we can't respond to her. Everyone turned around silently, and then, one by one the left hand was raised and lined up on the side of the ship. It is wrapped around a paper tape made by Roman, and the whole C is the only one. That's the sign of a partner. Luffy, everyone. The tearful Vivi looked at the row of arms, and there was no doubt that the entire Straw Hat group had given her a silent answer. As Vivi and the Luxing Duck beside him raised their left hand, Luffy shouted in anger. Sail. Set sail. Chapter 93. Integrate into the crowd. Straw Hat every day. With the 3 chasing warships also disappearing, the port has lost sight of its former partners. But Vivi believes that the Straw Hats will always have their place. Then. Okay, run fast. Vivi wiped away her tears and patted Lu Xingya next to him. Let's go home too. And ongoing Mary, who dumped Marine. So, what do you mean by woman? The interrogation, just interrupted by Vivi, resumed. Zoro looked at Nicole Robin vigilantly. This woman is too dangerous for most of the Straw Hats. I think. Witnessing Vivi's parting, Robin put down the book in his hand with a somber look. The benefits that a princess of a country can bring can be 10,000 times stronger than that of a little, wanted criminal. But the Straw Hats let go so easily, saying goodbye to their companions with their silent backs. It's really enviable. If I knew this group of people earlier, maybe I could cry and laugh so wanton. Be your partner. I've been an archaeologist since I was 8 years old. And then I was wanted. A little girl can't make a living alone, she can only rely on various bosses to make a living. So I'm very good at logistical planning. In an instant, Robin, who was in a good mood, easily introduced himself to the Straw Hats. The last boss was just beaten up by you guys, and now I have nowhere to go, so. Nicole Robin looked at the captain of the ship, Luffy. Let me stay. Well, it turns out that you also have difficulties. Luffy nodded earnestly as Roman rolled his eyes next to him. Okay, you'll stay. Luffy, X3. Facing the roars of Zoro, Usopp, and Nami, Luffy giggled Isho. Don't worry, she's not a bad person. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Hey, Luffy, Usopp said solemnly, this woman is the top cadre of the Baroque Works, Sand Crocodile's partner, who planned the whole Alabasta incident. Watching Luffy and Chopper playing with the arms on the floor, Usopp slapped the table. You should listen to me attentively. Usopp. Luffy turned around, 2 palms, grown, on the straw hat, like antlers. Look, I'm Chopper. Ha 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 ha. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Zoro closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead as he watched Usopp, Chopper, and Luffy's funny trio roll around on the deck. I can't see. Well, it's only you simple-minded guys who are fooled. Nami, who took a bath and changed into clothes, folded her arms in her arms. If you dare to do any tricks, I'll throw you off the boat right away. Ding dong. A purse is placed on the table. I brought some sand crocodile gems. Wow, good sister. I love you so much. What are you looking at me for? Facing Roman with a question mark on his face, Zoro shook his head helplessly. I figured out how much Nami would sell you for. Ah, Robin-chan. Pastry and afternoon tea, take it lightly. Looking at the attentive service Sanji, Zoro has given up hope for this boat. But at least. Roman, is it really good to keep this woman on our boat? Don't worry, Roman waved. I know this Nicole Robin fairly well. She's not a good person, but she's not a bad person. And Roman pointed to Luffy. You should trust Luffy's eyes. Then I'll go to the back to open the training room. You guys rest for half an hour first. Usopp, Nami, and Chopper, who were having a good time just now, all had a listless look on their faces, which was comforted by Luffy next to him with a grin. Don't worry, it's just a swollen circle. Just get used to it. Shut up for us, you guy who won't be hit by puppets anymore. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Are you all so lively? Facing Robin's question, Zoro, who had been wary of the other party, nodded. Ha ha ha, that's really funny. Okay, break time is over. After lunch, Roman clapped his hands and led the crowd with a death as hell face to the training ground, behind going merry. Is this Mr. Roman's fruit creation? Looking at the spacious training room and all kinds of exercise equipment in front of him, Robin couldn't help but sigh. Really handy ability. Okay, except for Luffy, everyone else started puppet avoidance training. Now Luffy has been able to close his eyes perfectly to avoid Roman's paper puppet, so Roman took out the sea stone braces. Luffy, your next step is to strengthen your body as much as possible. Only with enough physical support can he use his famous second gear and third gear skills. With Luffy's current body, Roman didn't dare to let him develop these moves in advance, after all. If your physical fitness is not enough, forcibly using these moves will cost you your life. I have to bring this thing again. The disgusted Luffy dawdled. You can eat open after training. Oh. I'm on fire. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Is there really no problem with such a captain? The first time Robin was speechless when he saw the daily life of the Straw Hats. He always had the illusion that he was on a pirate ship. Next is Robin. After assigning training tasks to others, Roman came over and raised the sea stone wrist guard in Young's hand. Did you bring this? Looking at Robin, who subconsciously took a step back and clutched his wrist, Roman calmly clasped the wrist guard on his hand. Then he casually pointed to a paper puppet next to him. You also put on a blindfold to train perception and avoidance. Thank you. Facing Robin's inexplicable thanks, Roman just sat aside to concentrate on his own. He only wore one sea stone bracer, but his stamina was still mostly sealed in an instant, and he could barely drive a few paper puppets. Even the White Knight couldn't maintain it, so she could only let Nami go outside to sail the boat. Although looking at Nami's escaping speed, I knew that the other party was very happy. Woo! Is this the daily routine of your Straw Hats? Long experience. Sitting on the deck, Robin, who drugged Chopper, turned his head to thank the little reindeer beside him. Thank you, Chopper is awesome. Bastard, you won't be happy if you say that, idiot. Your writhing posture, is Sanji possessed? The day's training is finally over. Nami was lying on the table, tilting her head and looking at the mature intellectual beauty opposite. A glint of envy flashed in his eyes. This fierce, this leg, this. If I hadn't known that you guys turned over the sand crocodile, I would have thought you were a XX fitness club. Facing Robin's teasing, Nami was powerless to complain. Who said it wasn't? Every day I was held by Roman to train, and those who didn't know it thought we were going to see to participate in the world's #1 martial arts conference. That. Robin swept around. What did the Straw Hats say? Zoro was sleeping on the side of the boat, Sanji was well dressed, the trio of Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper were playing, and the orange-haired girl Nami in front of them. More like a tour group than a pirate. Are you exercising? That income? Nicole Robin is very curious about this question. In the ships she had been on before, the captains immediately asked her to work immediately to prove her worth, assassinate spies, and make suggestions. This kind of time exercising together and complaining together has never existed in Nico Robin's life. Ah, Nami, who was lying on the table, looked decadent. Don't mention the income. How much money is not enough for our big stomach captain? I'm about to worry about it. Don't worry. Roman came over and waved his hand. A bundle of Baileys fell on the table with a pat-tat sound, the dark green like a brick exuding the fragrance of money. I took 100 million from the Alabasta royal family. Bang. Roman. However, Nami didn't even look at the money on the table, but suddenly got up in anger. How can you take Vivi's money? Alabasta needs a lot of money to rebuild, and Vivi needs it more than we do. And it's us who are going to fight Sand Crocodile. Yes, what is the money for? Luffy, with a straight face, interjected. I can't eat. Bang. Luffy fell silent with his head sunk into the deck. Shut up, you eat the most. Ah, this. Robin next to him looked stunned, and the crew started to beat the captain. Is this the captain's brother? Anyway, let's turn around and return the money to Vivi. Ah, this money has nothing to do with Sand Crocodile. Roman touched his chin and thought about it carefully. No, this money is really related to Sand Crocodile, it's gambling money copied from Yuyan. That's how. Don't panic, this money is not our reward for defeating Crocodile. Besides, people are defeated by Luffy, and if you want to give it, it is also for Luffy. Roman waved his hand, as the ship's military officer, or chief of staff, in the words of this world. He didn't want to appear in shock. The big pirate Straw Hat group refused to pay 100 Bailey for the newspaper because of the news such as a project, payment for my collaboration with Alabasta. By the way, this billion bell is just a token price. If you don't want to sail someday, Alabasta has a mayoral position for you. What kind of project is so worth? Desalination. For a split second, Nami felt sorry for herself. I'm so stupid, I didn't think of your convenient ability, Roman. If you were sold to Alabasta, wouldn't that be billions of Baileys a year? This. Of course. Stand up and Nami hands behind Isho. Roman, you are not so cheap. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Thank you so much. I hope when you see Going, Guild Tessero and Diamond King, Jozu, your first reaction is to sell them. Yesterday, the recommended vote hit a new high, so I can rest assured. Ask for a ticket every day. Chapter 94 Killer Attribution Old Dream. It seems that some book friends have not read the title page story, Miss Going Weak. Looking for Bakuro. I simply write a chapter, otherwise some people will think that the later crocodile transformation is too abrupt. Of course, it is based on the book's Time Online story. Just as Roman and Luffy set sail, in Alabasta. Miss Going Joe, how is the situation outside? In a hotel in the rapeseed flower market, Mr. Five, with his collar up, sneakily looked at the little girl who entered the door. On the one hand, the other party is a high-ranking cadre in the Baroque Works room, on the other hand. He and his partner Miss don't dare to show up on Valentine's Day. After all, they didn't complete the task explained above, kill the Straw Hats. According to the rules of the Baroque Works room, they will be dealt with. And Miss Going Joe, who added Leisure Green to himself, has no such concerns. As long as he doesn't meet a master, ordinary people won't notice her at all. There is news. In the hands of the expressionless little girl was a newspaper with the big headline, The Shocking Kleptocratic Conspiracy of the Former Shichibukai Crocodile to Form the Baroque Works Room. At the same time with the code Mr. 0, Sand Crocodile, Mr. 1, Daz Bones, Miss Fingers, Zala, Mr. 2, Von Cray, Mr. 4, Babe, Miss Merry Christmas, and a big headshot of Gunslinger Dog, Rasu. It's surprising that our boss is that Shichibukai. Mr. Point 5 or the man whose real name is Jem stared at the report in the newspaper, flipping it over and over again in disbelief. Because of the secrecy of the Baroque Works room, they didn't know who the real boss behind their group was until now, but it's Shichibukai anyway, so just sent to jail. But anyway, the equally cautious Miss Valentine's Day, a fashionable woman whose real name is Nikita, sighed with relief. At least we don't have to worry about the organization's pursuit. That's right, Mr. 5 also sighed in relief, and then reacted suddenly. No, look here, Marine is still looking for the rest of the Baroque Works cadres. The three of us and Mr. 3. This. Miss Valentine's Day shed 2 lines of clear tears. Isn't the killer's fate either in prison or in the gutter? Put in. Miss Going Joe, are you looking at the little painter girl packing up her luggage? Mr. 5 asked suspiciously. Is she going to run away? That's right, the Baroque Works room has fallen apart, plus Marine's wanted and Miss Valentine's Day is also best to hurry up. I'm going to jail. Hey, what did you just say? I'm going to jail and get everyone out. Don't be stupid, Miss Going Joe, Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine's Day hurriedly discouraged the little girl. That's Marine prison. How can we break in? Yeah, and according to the rules, we didn't complete the task, but the organization will kill us. However, codenamed Miss Going Joe, the little girl whose real name is Marianu just quietly put the painting tools in the suitcase and pulled the box to prepare to go out. It's my partner. There is no other reason, just such a ridiculous reason. The yellow and green of friendship I painted here will last for a week, and during this week, everyone who approaches this room will subconsciously regard the people here as friends, so you stay here and wait for the limelight to pass. Quote. Click. Looking at the closed door in front of him, Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine looked at each other. We just let Miss Going go on Monday alone. Facing the question of Miss Valentine's Day, Mr. 5 took off his brown sunglasses and tied his messy hair into a ponytail. Say what? Let a little girl go to prison alone. I haven't fallen to this point. The Miss Valentine next to him has changed into a leather jacket and picked up an umbrella as a weapon. Anyway, we are also senior cadres in the Baroque Works room, so we can't be looked down upon. Let's go. X2. Crunch. As the door opened, 2 figures caught up with the little girl with the suitcase in front of her. Help me. Although it was very chic to go out, but in a blink of an eye, I went to the gallows by the sea on Valentine's Day. And Mr. 5 and Miss Going Joe, who were hiding in the woods, looked at each other. The reason is, Hina is very angry. Tall, sexy, beautiful woman with pink long hair holding a lady cigarette and pointing to Miss on the gallows. Valentine's Day. Because the straw hats played. So, let the other cadres in the Baroque Works room surrender before noon, or I'll hang this guy. Original plot. Don't say I'm hacking Marine. Of course, the 2 people in the woods didn't want to watch their companions get hanged, but Mr. 5 was too strong, and Miss Going Joe's ability was against the sky, but the other party was a colonel of the headquarters with observation hockey, and he was very vigilant. Powerful. It's hard to get the other side hit. What to do? Hey, do you miss the slave family? A voice came out from behind, frightened Mr. 5 and Miss Going Monday jumping hiding in the woods. Turning to look, not only Mr. 2 Von Cray is there, but also Mr. Point 3 with a bruised nose and a swollen face in his hands. Mr. 2 Von Clay, Mr. Point 3, you are. I came out of prison. Don't forget that the slave family is a master of prison escape. As for this guy, he wants to run away by himself. Mr. 2 Von Crety raised Mr. Point 3 in his hand. His ability can make candle boats and even candle submarines to escape Marine's search. It's too boring, not to be called slaves. The Mr. Point 3 who was beaten by the other party dared not speak out. In the hands of Mr. 2 Von Cray, who knew the details of his fruit ability, Mr. 3 really had no chance of winning. By the way, what are you doing here? Mr. 2 Von Cray looked at the gallows by the seaside. Isn't he that Miss Valentine's Day? Are you trying to save her? Yes. Mr. 5 lowered his head in frustration. We originally planned to save the others, but we bumped into this Colonel Marine, and even missed Valentine's Day by. Wahaha. Be quiet. You're looking for death. In the face of Mr. 5 feet's surprise and Mr. 3 feet's anger, Mr. 2 Von Cray suddenly stood up and stretched his arms. To risk our own lives to save our partners, such a loyal colleague, how can we die without saving it? Although you say so, but we are killers. Wait, the blind spot was discovered by Mr. 2 Von Cray holding Mr. 3 in his hand. What do we call? Brush. However, before his words were finished, the neckline suddenly flied up. The whole person was thrown by Mr. 2 Von Cray like a cannonball towards Marine by the sea. ITM. Who? Shoot. Pay attention to the formation. Bang. Mr. 2 Von Cray, you bastard shemale. The huge, Candle Champion Cup, stood up from the big pit on the ground, and Mr. 3, who had passive monsters, began to meet the enemy with tears. On the other side, Mr. 5 rushing at high speed bit his finger. Blood and blood. The blood that popped out accurately landed on the rope tied to Miss Valentine's Day. In a few small explosions, Mr. 5 took a leap to catch the falling Miss Valentine's Day. This way. Facing the sailors on the warship next to her, the little girl missed. Going Joe flicked the paintbrush in her hand. The black of betrayal. Sir, everything is at your command. A group of sailors, betrayed, in an instant, took the little painter girl as their boss, and formed a circle to protect her in the center. Get off the boat. Take us to the detention facility where the Baroque Works room is held. As the warship turned to Yongfan and set sail, under the command of Miss Going Joe, a group of Marines escorted her, Mr. 5, Miss Valentine's Day away. Don't think about. As the Black Threshold, Hina, who is the highest combat power here, of course, he will not let the opponent leave like this, but... Brush. A man in a prison uniform stood in front of her, but the face with lipstick and eyeshadow was a manly decision. Let the horses go, come here. Hina is a shame. Bang. The two legs kicked together fiercely. This is new criminal caught today. Led by Marine with black, paint behind her, Miss Going Joe, Mr. 5, Miss Valentine successfully entered the heavily guarded Marine Detention Center. In fact, not to mention ordinary people, even capable people, if you accidentally get hit in front of the bug like Miss Going Joe, it is very normal for the car to roll over instantly. Everything went very well. First out of the women's prison to rescue Miss Fingers and Miss Merry Christmas, then to the men's prison. Crocodile with bold and grandiose sitting on the only chair, Mr. 1 sitting on other prisoners, and Mr. 4 standing on the wall as a statue. The whole is a prison situation, big boss scene. I have to say that even if you wear seastone handcuffs, the strong are still not offended by ants. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Reorganizing the Baroque Works room. Looking at the group of tools in front of him actually trying to save himself out, and continuing to let himself lead them, Crocodile cracked tooth issue. Come on, there are no more Baroque Works rooms. Boss, don't be discouraged. We can make a comeback. Yes, you are Crocodile. Oh, if I had even a little bit of trust in these fools, I wouldn't be where I am today, right? Hey, I'm so sorry, fools. The man in front of you is not worthy of your trust. Let's go. An unhappy Crocodile lit a cigar and watched the cadres of the many Baroque Works rooms leave. Apart from Mr. 1, why don't you go? My work isn't over, so I'm not leaving, boss. Whatever you want. The wall next to it was bombarded with a big hole by the gun dog of Mr. 4, and freedom was close at hand, but Crocodile did not want to take this step. Maybe it's just to maintain the little dignity that I have left, maybe it's just my disdain, or unworthy, to rely on the power of fools to leave. From the hole, Crocodile, who was smoking a cigar, could still see the many Baroque works cadres on the departing warship, as well as the Miss Going Joe standing on the side of the ship. Then let me paint the Baroque works room as a final gift, as a farewell. The little girl paints her brush with all the colors and throws it into the sky. Dream rainbow. The colorful colors fall down like a dream. Shine on every Baroque works room cadre and let their heart come out fully. Miss Fingers from Innkeeper, Mr. 4 from Delivery Man, Miss Merry Christmas from Princess Dress, Mr. 5 from Fireman, Miss Valentine's Day from Pastry Chef, and even the gun dog Rasu with a tank. Childish. Crocodile, smoking a cigar, looked at his former subordinate. Your wish is it to be a group of civilians. Really, ha 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 ha. Even with Crocodile's castle, he was amused by Mr. 1 next to him. Who would have thought that the dream of West Blue's famous killer was actually to be a hero? That's right, the current Mr. 1 is wearing tights, underwear, a mask, and a red cape behind him. It's a classic hero costume. Hey hey hey, Mr. 1, your clothes are so pretty. Miss Going Joe's dream rainbow has even interfered with reality, changing everyone's prison uniforms into their dream clothes. Also let others see. I think you look good, boss. The startled Crocodile lowered his head, and he actually had. Neat sailor suit, wide red belt, black captain's trench coat, embellished with gorgeous gold tassel, and a three-cornered hat with its own pirate logo next to it. One Piece King of Pirates. Why, how come? This is me. Crocodile looked at everything in front of him with trembling eyes. Is this the dream that he most desires in his heart? So what have you been doing all these years? Why did the former Crocodile go to sea? For what? Ah, so I'm a fool, too. Ha 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 ha. Wild laughter echoed in the cell, as if to see off the cadres in the Baroque works room. A palpitating aura rose from Crocodile in the one-piece King of Pirates outfit. Wrong, wrong. It turns out I've been wrong all along. Mr. 1, you still have to follow me this. Of course, boss. Mr. Point 1, who is sitting next to him with his hands in his arms, is always stern. This is my job. Damn, this place was attacked. Don't move, Sand Crocodile. Seastone, get the Seastone handcuffs. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Why didn't you take the opportunity to escape katakana middle dot katakana middle dot? He, who do you think I am? I'm Crocodile. Crocodile, who was sitting on the slate, let the Marines who were on the verge of enemy put Seastone handcuffs on him, and squinted at the two people who were thrown in on the ground. Yo, Mr. 0, the happy Mr. 2 Von Cree blinked, we meet again. TMD, why? This is Mr. Point 3 with a broken face. It seems that your practice is not at home yet, Mr. Welcome back. Taking a sip on the cigar, the man named Crocodile had a rare cool smile on his face. You useless bastards. Don't be too happy, because of your danger, you will be pushed into, impelled down, soon. On the other side, under the leadership of Miss Going Joe, other Baroque works cadres found an abandoned inn in the desert of Alabasta. After being renovated by them, the inn named Spider Cafe officially opened. Only this time, they are really operating as an inn, not a secret base for the killer. The happy ending is drawn by me. Miss Going Joe. No, that's what the little girl named Marianu said. Chapter 95. The Legend of Sky Island. What's the next island? Is it Winter Island? After the early exercise, Luffy, who had just been tortured by the Seastone bracers and couldn't get up, was instantly in high spirits and began to look forward to the adventure on the next island. No, it's Akashima. Akashima is fine, I like it too. I see you like everything. Roman rolled his eyes. As long as you get to the island, you can get rid of the boring exercise. Your calculation has been seen through by me. Luffy, take it. Radius. Tick. It's raining. Raindrops started to fall from the sky, and... No, what's all this mess? Along with the raindrops, there were also various sawdust and iron pieces, which made everyone subconsciously look up at the sky. Then, heaven dropped a galleon. Not to mention the exaggerated expressions of Yan Yi's trio, even Sanji fell on the deck with a cigarette butt, and Zoro subconsciously touched the knife at his waist. Even Robin, who has always been intellectually calm, stood up abruptly. Because in the sky, a giant sailboat with a visual width several times the length of Going Merry crashed down. And all kinds of debris on the ship floated down first, which is the truth of raining just now. While others were stunned, Roman just wanted to spit. How on earth can a sailboat be made as huge as an aircraft carrier? Is it because the wood in this world is more than the steel in the previous life? Everyone, hurry up and be careful. Nami, who was holding Roman's left leg, had 2 tears on her face. She felt that since she came to the great airline, the tears she shed in a day were more than 10 years ago. This is a dream, it must be a dream. Usopp, who was holding Roman's right leg, shouted to the sky, as if he could break through the illusion called reality, with just his aura. Is it a dream? That's great. Chopper has started to hypnotize himself. Bang! A falling barrel puts Chopper into physical hypnosis. Turn the rudder quickly. Nicole Robin, who hurriedly used the flower fruit ability to fix herself on the deck, shouted, but found that the people of the Straw Hats had given up driving the boat to avoid, but Roman, think of a way. X6. What time has this happened, and he is still playing tricks? But Nicole Robin soon found out that she was wrong. Well, leave it to me. Roman, who had 2 people hanging from his legs, clapped his hands, and the white paper flew out of him. Climb up the hole Going Merry quickly, then spread from the bottom to all sides into a spherical shape, and finally close at the top of the head. Quickly wrap up the whole ship. Paper dance, Maruko. Dong dong dong. With the steel-like paper wrapping Going Merry, the giant sailboat in the sky has fallen, and all kinds of debris smashed the paper ball into a bang. Fortunately, it is the sea here, so even if something heavy falls, it just pushes the paper ball aside to avoid the frontal impact. Like a balloon tumbler. Under the tie of the wise Captain Usopp, the Straw Hats have weathered the storm once again. Well done, it deserves a compliment. Why is the name of the skill so stupid this time? That's right, it should be called Invincible Iron Wall's Absolute Defense, or something. As the giant sailboat that fell from the sky smashed into the sea, Roman scattered the blank paper after the crisis was over. The few guys on the deck who were crying and shouting just now regained their energy immediately, and even started to complain about Roman's name, making Robin next to him sluggish. Is this the daily life of the Straw Hats? Compared to the sea, wasn't the situation we were in just now like balls in a hot pot? Roman's righteous words made everyone speechless. Going Merry is a ball, so what are they? Is it meat stuffing? Ah! Nami's exclamation caused everyone to turn their heads, recording that the pointer on her wrist was shaking, and the direction was. How can it be up? Is it broken? No, Robin rubbed his forehead and began to use his knowledge and expertise. It should be that the recording pointer was attracted by a stronger magnetic force, thus changing the pointing. That is to say. She looked up at the vast sky and told the truth in disbelief. The record pointer was taken by Sky Island. Oh, is there an island in the sky? Could it be that the boat just fell off Sky Island? Luffy and Usopp immediately came to their senses. This kind of thing is an incredible adventure. That's not. Turn the rudder up. Going to Sky Island. Facing Luffy's order, Roman asked with a black line. Your boat has the function of turning the rudder up. And do you see that Going Merry can fly? He is a boat, not a plane. Then go up with your plane. Luffy pointed to the sky without hesitation, just as Roman had the ability to fly. Going Merry, the boatman is not worth it. Don't make trouble, it's 7,000 meters high. Do you think my paper plane is a rocket? Mr. Roman, you just said that 7,000 meters is. Robin found the blind spot, since the other party stated the exact height, it means. Yes, over our heads, let me think about it. Yes, there is a white sea, at an altitude of 7,000 meters. What's that place? Nami is also interested. The sea, in the sky, what a strange thing, but since Roman said there is, it must be a well-founded thing. After all, Roman is not Usopp. Hey, Usopp next to him looked serious. I feel like someone was talking bad about me just now. That's your illusion. Nami waved her hand without looking back. Roman, you continue. Well, it's a bit complicated to explain. Simply put, there is a very dense cloud above our heads. Commonly known as the cumulus cloud. When it appears, it can even cause the famous midnight, day and night appearing in this area. Quote. And in the cumulus emperor cloud, a navigable sea is formed by the sea clouds. This strange ocean is called the White Sea. At an altitude of 10,000 meters above the Baihai Sea, there is a cloud layer called Baibaihi, and there is a sky island inhabited by humans. By the way, those angel people with degenerated wings, that is, moon people, are also human, right? Forget it, don't worry about those details. Katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot, katakana middle dot. Mr. Roman is very knowledgeable. Facing Nico Robin's sigh, Roman shook his head. I'm not learned at all, I just happen to know that. In fact, Roman looked at Luffy, who was jumping on the ruins of the giant ship that had just fallen, and he drew your attention to you in one sentence. One Piece King of Pirates Gol D. Roger once went to Sky Island, more than 20 years ago. If we go up, maybe we can see his old man's signature. Brush. A long head stretched out instantly. It was Luffy's face, full of interest. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go now. The question is, Roman shrugged, how do we get to the 10,000 meter altitude? Don't count on my paper airplane. My creation relies more on Newton's third law and Bernoulli's law to fly, so it doesn't need too much power. And if I want to go straight to the sky, unless I eat Golden Lion's piao fruit. What, Roman, there's something you can't do. Looking at Luffy with a look of disgust, Roman couldn't help but have a few blue veins jumping up on his forehead. I'm not Almighty Tinkerbell, I'm so sorry. Mr. Roman, you really know everything. Facing Nico Robin's compliment again, Roman sighed and waved his hand. I'm not omniscient, I just happen to know what I know. Looking at Nicole Robin, who was sorting out the pile of rotten weapons, boxes, and bones salvaged from the sailboat on the deck, Roman pointed to these things on the ground. Those items like these, I don't know if they were from that era, that country, that place. Really. The basic knowledge is lacking, but he knows all kinds of fortunate secrets, blocked by the government. This Mr. Roman is really mysterious. Nicole Robin thought about playing with the skeleton in her hand, and then. Ah, Luffy, cheer up. Help, Gululu. As the wreck of the giant sailboat next to it gradually sank to the bottom, Luffy and the others began their daily tricks again. Roman couldn't help rubbing his temples. So, you are a devil fruit-capable person. What gives you the courage to play in the sea when you don't have the means to fly? But. Ha, I found something awesome. Luffy, who was rescued, unfolded the map in his hand and let Roman lift his eyelids. Look, the map of Sky Island. Is this the power of lucky points? Sky Island. We're going on an adventure soon. X3. Facing the hilarious trio, Roman had to clap his hands and give them cold water. First of all, there is no way for us to reach an altitude of 10,000 meters. Operator Z Operator X3. Roman, think of a way. Okay. Facing the three faces whose life had no meaning, Roman sighed. There is a way, but until then. Chiang. In a huge sound of gongs and drums, a ship with a very personality, well, in this world, except for marine, basically everyone else's ships are very personal. In short, a boat with monkeys on the bow and gongs, and a large boat adorned with bananas and tropical trees came by. Standing on the bow. Gorilla, apes, or the upright walking creature with excess body hair shouting at Going Merry. Get ready to salvage. The sunken ships in this sea are all mine. So, Roman pointed his thumb there. Luffy, please go and negotiate with him. Monkeys and orangutans must have something in common. Roman touched his chin seriously. Chapter 96 Wonders of the Sea. The first appearance of the black group. Ha, I just said you were an ape. Oh, don't praise people so much. I've decided, I'll call you, Ape Shui. How embarrassing is this, I'm not so handsome yet. No, you're the ape. Since you said so, then the name, Ape Shui, belongs to me. Mad Rod. Are you two Mingo and Diamante? Also play a play of 3 praises and 3 pushes. Which language are these two guys speaking? Even Zoro couldn't help but complain. I don't know, maybe it's like attracting like. Cigarette-dipping Sanji has kicked Luffy out of the human ranks. No matter how much Roman complained, Luffy did have a good conversation with the captain of the other party, the gorilla who seemed to be wearing clothes. Seeing that he was about to be cut off, Roman had to cough and ask. There's something wrong with the recording pointer, and you want to follow us to Mock Town. Facing Roman's words, Shui Ape no. It should be the leader of the orangutan salvage group, the ape, who touched his protruding lips and nodded. Okay, just follow us after we salvage it. Excellent. Nami breathed a sigh of relief. Because of her record pointer being magnetized by Sky Island, the current Going Merry has lost its direction and can only navigate by way of luck. Needless to say, how unreliable this behavior is. Unless Roman reigns. That's why you're so calm, Roman, so you knew there were ships around here early in the morning. Of course. Regarding the strange luck of the Straw Hats, super good luck and abnormal attraction, there is no way to feel at ease after releasing paper cranes around Going Merry for a long time. Do you think Roman will talk nonsense? It is trivial to bump into a sea king, and it is normal to bump into hundreds of millions of pirates. So Roman is definitely not afraid. Be cautious. Yes, just be cautious. Anyway, following each other's boats will take you to Mock Town, where we'll be trimmed and fully prepared before heading to the Sky Island adventure. Roman remembered that there was actually a regular route to Sky Island, although only a few of the 100 people who set out on that route would survive. But compared to Luffy's choice to go up the upwelling current, there are only 2 possibilities of all survival or all death. No, let's just walk the rising current, honestly. Once other ships fail to rush into the Sky's White Sea, along the upwelling currents, they will definitely be destroyed. But with Roman, the big deal is to put a giant parachute directly. Anyway, with Roman's current strength, it shouldn't be a problem to maintain the paper umbrella that can keep Going Merry safe in the sea. If we go further, we can directly play hot air balloons. That's okay, Going Merry is a sea ship anyway, and Roman couldn't lift him to a height of 10,000 meters if he was exhausted, unless he left the ship lightly and went into battle obviously, let alone Luffy. Roman himself was unwilling to do so. Well, where's Luffy? After thinking about it, Roman looked around and found that there were a few figures missing. They were with the sailors of that ship, Nami said speechlessly, pointing to the monkey ship next to her. They all went down to the bottom of the sea to salvage the sunken ship. This devil fruit ability person goes into the water, even if there are protective props. But that danger anyway, Roman is reluctant to try. Maybe this is the reason why I can't learn armament hockey. Isn't it reckless enough? Roman was once again lost in thought, and in the applause of Nami, Usopp, and the others, the giant salvage boat next to him had already dragged the sunken sailboat up. I also caught a fish by the way. What is that? Continent. Dream, it must be a dream. It's all an illusion, you can't deceive me. It turned out to be a dream, huh? Watching the self-defeating, cowardly trio, Roman had to bust their fantasy. It's not a dream, it's a sea turtle, but it's a bit huge, and its head is twice the size of the salvage boat next to it. Ah, Roman, don't let us face this horrible reality. Don't panic. Facing the even bigger turtles attracted by the broken giant sailboat pulled out of the water by the salvage boat and Luffy and others jumping up and down in the turtle's mouth, Roman was very calm. Although this turtle is very huge, I am afraid that it can compete with the whale laboon at the entrance of the Great Route. But the rare natural enemies of this giant creature are destined to have no terrifying combat power, and the threat is not as good as an 80 million pirate. Moreover, the big deal is that I will take you to fly to avoid it. Anyway, this turtle can't fly. Romans, you're so reliable, let's go now. Looking at Nami, Usopp, and Chopper hanging on Roman's body, Nico Robin next to him was speechless again. Shouldn't you all be united at this time to find a way to rescue the captain or something? Don't worry. Roman misunderstood Robin's eyes and thought she was afraid of the giant sea turtle next to her, so she confronted the intellectual beauty issue. It's good to get used to this kind of thing. Thinking that when he first entered the Great Route, Roman was also startled by Luffy's various gods leading the way. Now, even if the giant tortoise on the nearby island suddenly spit out words, Roman could calmly accept it. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Nicole Robin, is it too late for me to disembark now? Black. At this moment, the sky suddenly darkened. Hey, what's going on? Why is the sky darkening? Is this what Roman said, midnight? Don't panic, Roman waved his hand. Although it looks dark, it's not complete darkness, but the black cloud over the city, situation before the torrential rain. That is to say, we have encountered the special weather, cum Emperor Cloud, here. Startled. Monster. XN. In the dark sky, there are a few huge figures that support the sky and the ground. They have wings behind them, spears in their hands, and even the giant sea turtles that look like islands next to them are just rabbits in front of these figures. What the hell is this? Get off the boat. Run. Hoa ho ho. In an instant, even Luffy, who was not afraid of the sky and earth, slammed into the sails. Facing this tall figure with a visual measurement of at least a few kilometers, it is no longer a question of courage or lack of courage. Even Nicole Robin has joined the spinning jib, only. Is this the projection of Sky Island? It's obviously a very scary scene, but once you know the truth, it's boring. In the face of this sky-supporting giant, the island-like turtle next to him also dived into the sea in shock. And Going Merry and the orangutan salvage boat are at full power, pulling two long white lines on the sea and racing all the way. It was not until after leaving this sea area, the sun appeared again, and the crisis was resolved, that a group of people fell on the deck. Sanji, what day is today? Zoro, first a huge sailboat fell from the sky. Nami, then the record pointer points to the sky. Usopp, and then I met a strange orangutan salvage team. Chopper, and attracted island-like turtles. Robin, even night falls. Luffy, a giant figure, dozens of times taller than a giant. Very good, I didn't lose the other party. Roman glanced at the orangutan salvage boat lying on the deck next to him. Tisk tisk tisk, more than half of the other party's men and horses peed their pants, compared to. Even Usopp's face in the straw hats is as normal as usual, and he already has a big heart. Going to sea with Luffy, if nothing else, exercising courage is definitely a first-class sharp. Why are you panicking at all? X7. Facing everyone's complaints, Roman spread his hands. Of course it's because I know all this. Do you want me to? Don't. Luffy was the first to stand up and refuse. It always feels like Roman, any interesting adventure will become boring when you speak. Really keen intuition. Indeed, the truth of the giant is nothing but a projection of the people on Sky Island. Maybe the real body is just a few weak chickens and children. Okay, but anyway, let's go get some rest first. Pointing to the front, although it is invisible to the naked eye, Roman's paper crane has already flown far away. An island with a pleasant climate was observed, as well as the small town above. Jaya Island, Mock Town. The Jaya Island in front is a spring island with a gentle breeze and a pleasant climate, which is why Roman's paper cranes can go smoothly. What's the matter, Roman? Noticing Roman's change in expression, Nami was the first to ask a question. Because Roman's expression now clearly shows that he has encountered a strong enemy. It's okay, my paper crane was knocked off. No way, your paper crane is so small, and it's still white. Flying in the sky, no one will notice at all, right? Usopp thought so, but he also knew that Roman was a serious person. So, we have met a master. The last message from Jihei was that on the roof of the small town, a man wearing a strange hat, a monocular telescope in his right eye, a long and narrow face, and a black cloak, and a hand he aimed at. Long gun. If it weren't for Roman's own observation hockey, who is good at observing from a distance, he wouldn't even know where the attack was coming from. Is it Van Oka? The future number 3 captain of the Blackbeard Pirates, and now the sniper under Blackbeard, is a master of ultra-long-range shooting and high-speed shooting. For the current Straw Hats, they are more dangerous people than Blackbeard itself. Fortunately, they should have no intention of fighting the Straw Hats now. Let's go to the Sky Island to relax, otherwise, when I encounter these hundreds of millions of pirates every day, my Roman nerves are about to collapse and I can't bear it. Seagull. No, it's a paper crane. Sitting on the roof of the town, a man named Van Oka put down his love gun, thousands of lands. I felt a sight on me, maybe I've got a strong enemy. Even so, there was no such thing as fear on his face. Because this is fate. Chapter 97 Take Turns Black Group Strong Enemy. I have time to play. Our Tsuruyama Coalition Army is on the east coast of Gaia. With the appearance of the island ahead, Going Merry also separated from the giant monkey salvage boat next to it and sailed to the seaside port called Mock Town. There are pirate ships with various flags parked there, and it looks like an outlaw place. At the same time, I really don't need. No need. X2. Okay, Roman, who was sternly rejected by Luffy and Nami, stopped his spoiler behavior, but there was still something to be said. Everyone after disembarking. Low profile. But does Luffy really know what a low profile is? Forget it, I'll go shopping with you. That's it, the paper cranes I released have detected a few real masters on this island. Before the words fell, Luffy Zoro's eyes became sharp, and they looked eager to try, making Roman speechless. Look up to the sky. You don't want to rush to fight when you hear, Master. Those are a few terrifying figures with a bounty of hundreds of millions. We can't beg for it if we really do it. That's right, there is currently a group of unremarkable guys on this Jaya Island, that is, the Blackbeard Pirates with all members, admiral height, starting at 3 meters. Although the bounty of the Blackbeard Pirates is generally very low now, it is because they have just debuted, and the captain of the Blackbeard, Marshall D. Teach, doesn't even have a bounty. But when it comes to strength, it's not an exaggeration to say that the entire staff is over 100 million. There is no doubt that it is a 2-color hockey holder. Anyway, there is definitely no problem with the current Straw Hat group of blood abuse. So, do whatever you need to do when you get to the island, don't make trouble and don't be stupid. In short, look at my face and act. Looking at Zoro and Luffy, who nodded with closed eyes and raised his eyes to the sky, Roman began to silently recite, Bing Shinju. I have a disease that will kill me when I go to the island. I want to stay on the boat. Usopp's whole body is numb, hundreds of millions. Crocodile, who has just gathered the strength of the crowd and barely defeated it, has a bounty of 80 million. There are several people who are stronger than sand crocodiles on this broken island. The black group. No way, no way. I am not going. Chopper is afraid of life, let alone such a terrifying character in Roman's mouth. In his imagination, this island is simply hell. There are a group of inhuman strong men with a height of 8 feet and a waist circumference of 8 feet. That's actually true. At least Blackbeard himself is 10 feet tall. A little giant with a waist of 10 feet. Really or not? Zoro raised his eyebrows, looking like he couldn't hold back his vigorous fighting spirit. Just now, his combat power has been greatly improved, just when he is eager for opponents. Really, as true as going. Roman rubbed his temples and vaccinated them. Anyway, for the sake of everyone's health and safety, don't mess around, otherwise I'll have to drag you into the sea to escape for your life. But in fact, don't be too nervous, said the strength of his opponent first, and Roman then comforted everyone. The other party has no grievances with us for the time being, and has no motive to shoot at me for the time being. We just need to look for clues to Sky Island after supplies are complete. It's fine if those people haven't existed before. In short, Roman kept intimidating and intimidating. Usopp, Chopper, and even Nami didn't want to get off the boat, and Sanji also needed to stay and watch the boat. On the contrary, Robin, who was used to dealing with all kinds of bulls, ghosts, snakes and gods, was fearless and left to inquire about information and buy clothes by himself. And of course Roman went shopping with Luffy and Zoro, watching these two over-energized guys by the way. Mock Town, a town developed on the basis of pirates. As they walked, Roman introduced to Luffy and Zoro, as you can see. What do you see? Look at you. Try again. Try and die. The battle begins. In short, all the way through is basically this style of dialogue. It is a daily life here, a town full of violence. However, Luffy and Zoro next to them were indifferent. Strictly speaking, they were also good players who were used to using violence to solve problems. Fortunately, the pirates don't take action against civilians. After all, on the one hand, they all spend a lot of money, and on the other hand, if they have money but no one serves them, wouldn't it be very disappointing? Therefore, human beings are the most adaptable creatures. As long as it is profitable, there are still a lot of people to make money from Bailey with blood. Oh, there are all kinds of people. It's a very interesting town. Even though they were fighting and killing all the way, Luffy and Zoro looked around with great interest, giving people a feeling of being like a duck in water. Wow, ha, I didn't even try, and you fell. A sturdy man with long purple hair and a wrestler's mask over 3 meters was smiling and looking upright. Champion, logo on the belt. Have you been exercising well? Giza's Badgers, the helmsman of the Blackbeard pirate ship. A hand-to-hand master who can skillfully use two-color hockey. I heard that this guy is a fighting champion. It's better not to provoke him. Champion. The word immediately aroused the alertness of Luffy Zoro, but Roman, who was prepared, dragged the two of them away one by one. Don't make trouble. Seeing that these two guys didn't want to leave, Roman had to come up with his trump card. It's $1 billion guy, even if it's for the sake of other companions. Let's go, X2. Although Luffy Zoro wanted to compete with each other, he also knew that if there was a conflict, the rest of the Straw Hats would have to pay for their willfulness. From the new group. Cough cough. A man who was dying on the ground stopped on the road. He was wearing an unidentified black feather coat and a black round hat. Under his gray hair was a terminally ill face. If it weren't for his height of more than 3 meters, he really looked like a patient waiting to die. Several brothers, can you help me? Facing the guy lying on the ground coughing up blood, Zoro calmly complained. You are too lazy to get up yourself. This sickly appearance can deceive others, but it can't favor Zoro Luffy, who has amazing intuition, not to mention the two who have awakened observation haki under Roman's coercion. Cough, sorry. Difficulty, climbed onto the horse next to him, and the panting man patted the horse under the seat. I was born frail and sick, let's go, strong. Puff. Hey, your horse is coughing up blood too. It is true that if there is a master, there must be a servant. Even a horse will pretend to be a sick look. Grim Reaper, Doc Q. The ship doctor of the Blackbeard pirates, a mysterious guy who likes to hide his strength. At the same time, like the sniper who talks about fate, he is also a guy who believes in fate. So, a little thought let's have one. Facing the basket of apples he handed over, of course Roman and Zoro couldn't accept this kind of inexplicable thing, but Luffy. Thanks. Chew, chew. Boom. At this moment, a series of explosions came from the side, mixed with a mess of exclamations. What's the matter? A sick man gave them apples just now, and they exploded after eating them. It's really miserable. The 5 people were directly blown to pieces, and the mortuary didn't even need it. Clang. The words Hidai in his hand suddenly came out of their sheath, and Zoro looked at each other with murderous intent. What do you mean? Don't panic. The man lying on the horse's back just showed a wicked smile. He didn't hit. Exploding apple, he'll be fine. You're lucky, boy in straw hat. I really want to cut that inexplicable guy just now. Facing the angry Zoro, Roman waved his hand. Don't be impulsive, that guy just now is also one of the masters, I said. Sure enough, I just said there is a strange feeling. Zoro calmed down, holding the knife handle around his waist. It's as if I can't hit him. Obviously I haven't shot yet. Yeah, you can't look like a person. Roman and Zoro, who were chatting while walking, came to the tavern in front of them. Luffy had already rushed to the bar and started to eat and drink. Next to him sat a tall and burly middle-aged man with a rough appearance, thick hair on his body, and a tall, burly body. Man. Roman's footsteps suddenly paused, and the next second he continued forward as if nothing had happened, causing the big guy Vivi, who was just as immersed in eating as Luffy, to glance back. Boss, wine. As Roman and Zoro sat down beside Luffy, Roman took the opportunity to glance at each other. Chew-colored skin, fluffy black hair was wrapped in a turban, and there were a few teeth missing in his mouth, and he was swallowing the food in his hand. This cherry pie is terrific. Quote. This cherry pie is delicious. Quote. Luffy and the strong man, who glanced at each other, lifted the wine glasses on the table and raised their heads, and then. Why is this wine so good? Why is this so hard to drink? I'm not a chef, how do I know? The strong and healthy boss replied calmly, but the 2 guests in front of him had already started to stare at each other. Is your tongue broken? Your brain is broken. Boss, bring me 50 pieces of meat to bring back as a present. Boss, bring me 51 cherry pie to take back as a present. Ah, then my meat will be changed to 52 pieces. Unfortunately, then my pie will be 53 copies. Meat 54. Send 55. Made. Is this the future of One Piece, King of Pirates and the 4 Emperors? Elementary school students quarrel at this level. Could it be that this world is really the purer and stronger? Listening to the boring quarrel between Luffy and the big man, Roman next to him only felt the throbbing of his temples. This is very similar to Luffy's behavior pattern, but the person whose preferences are completely opposite is called Marshall D. Teach. He also has a famous nickname. Blackbeard. Chapter 98 Hyena Provocation Provocative Hyena. Bang. With one foot on the stool and the other on the bar, Luffy raised his fist. And the big man who stood up, that is, the Blackbeard, is barely the same height. Want to fight? X2. Please, you two. Roman not only didn't feel afraid, but even wanted to laugh a little. What's there to argue about? Maybe it's Luffy's charm that he turns serious things into comedy. Are you a pirate? Faced with Blackbeard's question, Luffy answered without hesitation. Yes. Then how much is the bounty? 30 million. The Straw Hats have not received the latest wanted notice. Only you. Lies without drafting, you big liar. I'm not lying, I'm telling the truth. You too. Have you been downgraded from elementary school to kindergarten? Luffy, just leave the purchasing to me. I'd rather be in charge of it all the time, right? You buy a ghost meat. Haven't you always only eaten meat? When did you suddenly think of your captain character? Roman has no hope for the strong demeanor in this world. If it weren't for the eagle eye, these eccentric powerhouses would only make people's views explode. Wait, the Hawkeye who usually grows pumpkins alone is also. Okay, big man. The owner of the hotel stood up to smooth the game. Here's the 50 pieces of cherry pie you want, don't fight in my shop. HMPH. With a cold snort, Blackbeard took the food packaged by the boss, put down the money, and turned to leave. In fact, as long as it doesn't hinder his dream, Blackbeard is usually a good talker. A pirate in a captain's uniform passed by, and the tall Blackbeard was a little concerned with his arrogance. It's like seeing a hyena with its teeth and claws. Gah! The door of the tavern was pushed open, and a tall blond man walked in, wearing a captain's coat, sticking out his tongue in arrogance. The pirate in the straw hat is that here? Bellamy. Why did he come here? Don't look, be careful to get into trouble. Luffy, Zoro, and Roman turned their heads in response to the voices of others in the tavern who were approaching the enemy. After all, the term, pirate in a straw hat, often refers to Luffy himself. Bellamy. Why is this unfortunate child here? Obviously Roman didn't pay attention to provoking this unlucky bastard, but he still came to give it away. But it's normal to think about it. This town is the home base of the Bellamy Pirates, and it's not unusual to notice Luffy's arrival. You're that Luffy in a straw hat with a head worth 30 million. The man with blonde hair and a long scar on his left eye walked into the tavern with his arms folded over his chest and a coat, and the pirates on both sides of the way gave way. Looks like a big guy. Did you hear that the kid in the straw hat is worth 30 million? Really or not? A group of pirates whispered, but for those of them who didn't even have a bounty. Don't mind your own business, drink. Hee hee. And followed by Bellamy or his pirate cadres. Although it is doubtful how much strength these cadres have. What's wrong? This shop is dirty and smelly. A silver-haired man wearing a coat, smoking a cigarette, wearing sunglasses and holding a beautiful woman with a big man attitude walked in and was a group of ridicule. It still sells the cheapest rum. Oh, it's still full. Look at what. Puff. The kukri machete in his hand slashed abruptly, and knocked down a pirate next to him, under the seat of this arrogant silver-haired man, bold and grandiose. Don't you give up your seat immediately after seeing this, uncle. What a shame. This. Who is this coming? If Bellamy Roman is still impressed, I really can't remember this guy. Fortunately, there are other spectators around. It's Big Knife Thatches. Shish, be quiet, he's a big 38 million man. 38 million dare to be called a big man. Roman shook his head speechlessly, but he was just a group of shrimps in the mud, so he dared to speak out. I want the most expensive wine. The blonde pirate captain named Bellamy sat next to Luffy, and then pointed to Luffy next to him. Whatever this kid likes, give him one too. What, so you are a good person? Facing Luffy's words, the crew officers who followed Bellamy in sneered. Bellamy really likes to play. The fun is about to begin. Just as Luffy took the boss's drink and started drinking, a big hand suddenly covered his straw hat from behind. Then smashed it hard at the bar in front. Okay. The rest of the Bellamy's pirates began to prepare to laugh, because this is Bellamy's specialty, show. Give the other party a dismantling first way. What do you want to do, little one? Bellamy's hand froze in midair, because the other hand next to him grabbed his wrist and couldn't move. Hey, don't destroy public property casually. Oops, crappy, conditioned reflex to hide aside. Luffy, who had run to Bellamy's side at some point, patted the blonde arrogant man on the shoulder with an apologetic expression. I'm sorry, I took you for a paper man. This. Roman of course knew that Luffy was telling the truth, and he used Bellamy as his paper puppet, conditioned reflex to avoid. But to others. There is a kind. Do you want to call me a paper tiger? Just as an angry Bellamy was about to fight, Luffy put down his glass and faced the bartender. Boss, do you know how to get to Sky Island? For a moment, the entire bar fell silent. All the people looked at Luffy in disbelief, and then collectively froze for a moment. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. He said Sky Island. Wow ha ha. Ha ha ha, I'm seriously asking how to get there, my stomach hurts. The whole tavern was full of laughter. Full of cheerful atmosphere. All the people laughed, only Luffy, Zoro, and Roman who shrugged their shoulders. Birds know the ambition of Hongu. Summer insects can't speak ice, well frogs can't speak the sea, ordinary people can't speak. Hey, I really can't stand you guys. Bellamy, who suddenly breaks free from Roman's bondage, mocked. Are you scumbags from there to believe in such an outdated legend? Listen, there is a natural phenomenon of towering ocean currents in this sea area. Ships that are unfortunate to encounter will be washed up into the sky by the huge ocean currents, and then fall. Bellamy leaned against the bar with a mentally retarded expression on his face, looking at Roman, Luffy, and Zoro. It's really disappointing. I also want to test you guys as crew members of the New Age. I didn't expect it to be a few idiots daydreaming. Going Township, Jade City, great secret treasure. Wake up, the era of pirates' treasure hunting dreams is over. Now is the era of using power to dominate the sea. You garbage will only drag us real pirates back. In the face of Bellamy's remarks, Luffy pressed the straw hat and ordered Roman and Zoro. This fight, we're not going to fight. Oh, give up resistance. Hey. Stupid, Luffy doesn't care about you stinky fish and rotten shrimp. It's like when a person sees a quagmire on the side of the road, even if his trouser legs are splashed with muddy water, he won't run to step on the quagmire. But, Luffy, can I dodge, then? Facing Roman's words, Luffy, the captain, nodded. Of course. Ha ha ha. After all, it's just a bunch of cowards. Bellamy, start the show. Brush. A wine bottle slid across Roman's body suddenly, and fell next to Roman's clothes. Just a short distance away, he touched Roman's skin. Bang. Bellamy, who staggered forward and swung the bottle empty, stared at Roman who was easily dodged. You. Clap clap. However, Roman just clapped his hands to attract the attention of everyone in this tavern, and then. My captain doesn't care about you, because in his eyes. Roman stepped forward and faced the furious Bellamy with a smile. Luffy and Zoro are both arrogant people and don't care about mud. But Roman is different, he doesn't mind taking the time to fill the quagmire. You salted fish who don't even have a dream, or just garbage. What did you say? Facing the Bellamy Pirates vice captain, Bigsword, Thatches who stood up, Roman swung his hands again and again. Don't get me wrong, I'm not targeting anyone. I mean everyone sitting here. As Roman looked around for a week and spread his hands, his playful eyes fell on all the pirates present. You are all rubbish. P.S. The editor said that the next week will be Jojong, so, have you invested in a lucky bag? Although I don't know what's the use of that thing, also ask for a ticket by the way. Chapter 99 Kami e Muso Iron Block. This guy. Crazy. What the hell is he trying to do? The people in the entire tavern seemed to have been afflicted with immobilization magic, staring at the smiling Roman in stunned eyes. How arrogant the other party's calm words just now were. In contrast, Bellamy's behavior of smashing the bottle and slapping the back of the head appears low and childish. Rub. He took out his dagger and stabbed Roman, who had his back turned to him. Although Bellamy's face was full of madness and anger, he was destined to not vent. Brush. Roman just took a step to the side at the moment he made his move, and the sharp dagger swiped across the corner of his clothes. Just like before, it's only a short distance away. But like a mote. Don't get excited. Roman turned back to look at Bellamy, obviously smiling, but his unwavering eyes made this big man, who offered a reward of 55 million berry froze all over. It will destroy things in the tavern here. If you have something to say, go out and talk about it. As Roman walked straight all the way to the gate, the stunned Bellamy pirates on both sides recovered from their shock, looking at the slowly approaching Roman's eyes gradually becoming dangerous and crazy. Wait until you go out. Dream it. How could a pirate tell you any rules? Brush. A hooded cadre suddenly pulled out a pistol, and the muzzle of the gun was aimed at Roman's temple. Then pressed the trigger without hesitation. Boom. Blood splattered, and the man shot in the head looked up and fell backwards. Of course, a pirate opposite the fallen hooded officer. As for Roman. What's the matter? Am I blinded? It's impossible. Roman is still walking towards the gate step by step, each step is so precise that it seems to have been measured. The hooded cadre who shot behind him has fallen into a life of suspicion. The spear technique that claims to be able to shoot down 3 birds in 1 second is actually empty when it is close to the face. Let me come. The vice captain Thatches, nicknamed Big Knife, stood up abruptly, and the peculiarly shaped kukri machete, dog-leg knife, in his hand slashed towards Roman with a piece of silver light. It seems to have some strength. But, brush. In the face of this dangerous blow, Roman just leaned forward. As if it had been rehearsed 1,000 times, the odd-shaped machete fell against Roman's clothes. This big man, in a white fur coat, almost stumbled. The other party is a devil fruit person, let's go together. I don't know who shouted, although Roman was able to dodge without damage, not by the ability of devil fruit but by observation hockey, but he really is a devil fruit power user, and it can be regarded as a crooked hit. Brush, brush, brush. I have to say that Bellamy's group of new era pirate leaders are still a little capable, and a terrifying fierce light erupted in the eyes of several people. In the surging muscles, the bones of the whole body made a rattling sound. Several long knives and short swords were intertwined into an airtight knife net, shrouding Roman. Front, back, left and right are sharp-edged weapons. Faced with such a dangerous situation, Roman actually put his hands in his trouser pockets. Turning sideways, moving to the right, shrinking the chest and abdomen, the body suddenly became almost paper-thin, and 2 long knives swept across Roman's chest and back, while Roman just made a false move of dodging to the side, and let the besieger subconsciously swung his weapon. Then, puff! In the blink of an eye, the weapon in the hands of the besieger slashed at the companion. And Roman then slanted, and a stabbing sword from his right hand chased after him. But as Roman's body was dodging as soft as paper, the stabbing sword that had lost its target fell into the chest of the swordsman who accidentally injured his partner, and instantly a bright red began to spread. What kind of power is this? Deflect attack, or hallucination? It's sorcery. As Roman walked all the way with his hands in his pockets, behind him were several Bellamy pirates who accidentally injured their own people. Let the other pirates suddenly back away subconsciously, looking like they saw a ghost. Kami-e. Rokushiki, is to remove the strength of the whole body, and through the air flow changes generated by the opponent's actions, the body can become as thin as paper, and the body can be controlled easily. Dodge. And Roman's paper fruit goes a step further, directly endowing Roman with the characteristics of a paper man. Coupled with Roman's awakened observation hockey, it is even more powerful. It is completely possible to use strength to avoid, to follow the trend, to gain the highest dodge efficiency with the least consumption, and even to guide the opponent to kill each other while dodging. As long as the enemy's individual combat strength does not exceed a certain level, even if it is surrounded by thousands of troops, it can still support it for a long time. But from the new group, to put it bluntly, it is just a magic trick to abuse vegetables. Like now. Clang. The weapon in his hand fell to the floor, and a member of the Bellamy pirates retreated with a twitching face, making an unconscious trembling sound in his mouth. Monsters can't beat at all. Snapped. A palm suddenly covered his face, interrupting his cowardly words, and then a huge force grabbed his whole body and slammed it on the floor. Click. The hands and feet of the cadre, whose head suddenly sank to the ground, is still twitching, but looking at the bright red and bloody smell that has spread, I am afraid that it is already impossible to survive. Not everyone smashes their heads through the deck like the straw hats when they have nothing to do. There is a kind. Bellamy, whose hand was covered in red and white, stood up and looked at Roman, who had walked to the door of the store with his back to him. I'm going to beat you into meat sauce and use your skin to make a pirate flag. Facing the threat from behind, Roman didn't even bother to turn his head. If you can do it. Boom. Clack. The door of the hotel shattered, and a shadow flew out from inside. The floor opposite the hotel was smashed into pieces, and the soil splashed. After a scratch was pulled on the ground, the pirates around were startled to see what it was. Bellamy. How did he? Hey, he looks a little embarrassed. Could it be that you have met a master? Hey, there's a good show to watch. The voice in his ear made Bellamy even more furious. He squatted on the ground with his legs on the ground, and his bloodshot eyes stared at the door of the tavern that he smashed through. Like a grinning hyena. I've said it all, don't destroy public property indiscriminately. Roman, who slowly walked out of the broken gate, looked at Bellamy, who was leaning down on the street in front of him. I hope you'd better bring enough money, otherwise. Kill you. Spring sniper. Bellamy's trick is to first turn all the calves into springs, then press the legs that have become springs to the ground, store a large amount of elastic potential energy to the feet, and convert the speed of the released large amount of elastic potential energy. And the moment of power bounces at the opponent. The high-speed ejection of power can knock opponents into the air like a cannonball. The more energy stored, the stronger the power will be. That's right, Bellamy doesn't have the style of pirate, introducing his fruit ability before the battle at all, so it's obvious that he has lost his mind. With a bang, Bellamy had already slammed into Roman like a cannon in the world. But of course. Clap. As Roman flashed to the side, Bellamy suddenly plunged into the second floor of the tavern next to him, causing Roman to shake his head in disappointment. Another rookie who bullies ordinary people by relying on his fruit ability. In other words, Bellamy is the only one who can develop the fruit ability so unsuccessfully, right? The ability to turn legs into springs all over the body is enough to make other colleagues who have developed various strange and grotesque manipulations of devil fruit die of laughter. Don't hide if you can, coward. Huh. Bellamy's human cannonball shot suddenly from the ruins on the second floor of the tavern and charged towards Roman at high speed, but of course it failed again. The whole person smashed into the next street, but this time. Collapse. He suddenly turned his feet to the ground, and his spring-like calves fell on the street to compress and charge, and then Benelli flew to the bell tower next to him, and stomped on it again to continue to compress and leverage. Shish. This time Bellamy did not attack immediately, but kept bouncing back and forth between the surrounding buildings. Each bounce would accumulate stronger kinetic energy, getting faster and faster. It was like a dense number of shells bombarding around Roman. But it's useless. Such an astonishingly loud, wind-roaring attack was hilarious in front of Cammy E. Roman was standing there, not even moving his footsteps. Let Bellamy attack from all sides. Roman's figure was erratic, like a feather struck by an iron hammer. Before the hammer fell, the gust of wind came first. And as long as there is a breeze, it is enough to make the feathers dance with the wind, and let the hammer whistle horizontally and horizontally, and it is invincible, and it is impossible to hurt the feathers in the slightest. Hey, waste, coward. After repeatedly attacking for a long time, Bellamy, who didn't even touch Roman's hair, was mad. Talk without thinking. If you have the ability, stand up and call me. This. Others will listen to you when they have nothing to do. Just as the onlookers complained, Roman replied calmly. Okay. After speaking, Roman opened his horse and slammed his fists into a hard resistance gesture. This is not because his brain is out of control, but because there is a dark and terrifying aura watching this battlefield, and the source does not need to think about the Blackbeard who is taller than ordinary people sitting next to him eating cherry pie. Well, after performing, Kami E, another move, Iron Nugget. With Blackbeard's meticulous thinking, I'm afraid there will be many interesting associations. Go to hell. Bellamy, who had turned into an afterimage, suddenly punched Roman, with a power no less than Marine's heavy artillery. And Roman didn't dodge, letting the opponent's fist fall on his chest. Hit hard in one place. Boom. There was a loud bang, like a cannonball exploded on the ground, and the floor exploded in circles. The blasted dirt and gravel seemed to be shot in all directions by innumerable arrows. And the many pirates staring at the battle situation sucked in a breath of cold air. In the middle of the battle, Roman's body didn't even shake, like a statue cast in steel. However, Bellamy took the undispersed sand and pulled a great trajectory in the air and flew out. With a bang, he slammed into the building behind him. Looking at the curved shape of the exposed arm, a smashed fracture could not escape. Monster, it's too scary. Bellamy's fist is hard pressed in the chest, and it can also shock the opponent like this. Who the hell is the master? In the surprised sound of passerby pirates, Blackbeard's eyes flashed after taking a sip of wine. Kami E, Iron Nuggets. It's a bit specious, but looking at his contempt for pirates and his behavioral habits, there is a high probability that a government was born. A marine or CP trader or undercover. Interesting. P.S. Ask for a ticket every day. Chapter 100 Dreams do not extinguish Sky Island intelligence. Roman, go. It's a long story, but in fact, only a few dozen seconds have passed since Roman started walking out of the tavern. Luffy and Zoro came out too, since Luffy said not to fight these guys. Then Roman can dodge and resist all the way, which can be solved as well. As for the big guy, Demeanor who can stand and let the other side humiliate because he doesn't bother to argue with him, it doesn't matter if Roman doesn't want to be the Four Emperors or the One Piece King of Pirates. It seems that there is no information on Sky Island here. Facing Luffy's words, no one dared to laugh this time. The cadres of the Bellamy pirates who walked out of the tavern, and Bellamy who fell in the ruins, are the best deterrents. Ha ha ha, the cherry pie here is really delicious. Blackbeard, who was sitting on the street and eating takeaway, looked at Luffy who was walking out of the tavern, and had the illusion of seeing self. The new age that those guys are talking about is a piece of shit. You. Big Knife, Thatch wanted to go up and teach a black and rough man who spoke wild words, but seeing Roman unscathed and Bellamy crawling up with twisted arms in the ruins, he decided to be a time. Good man. A hero does not suffer immediate losses, he retreats first and recovers before talking about it. What is the era of pirate treasure hunting is over. Ha ha ha. Facing Luffy, Zoro, and Roman, Blackbeard put the bottle in his hand on the ground. Obviously he had rotten teeth, he was only wearing the lowest sailor suit, he was eating the cheapest cherry pie, and he was drinking the cheapest rum, but his arrogant temperament was like a monster hovering in the eyes of the three of them. Heaven devours the earth. The human dream. It will not end. Faced with Blackbeard's words, Luffy just looked at him seriously, instead of running forward jokingly as usual. Am I right? As long as you lock in your goal, let others laugh if you want, as long as you achieve. Me and you, Luffy interrupted, looking solemnly at the man sitting on the ground and his height in front of him. It's different. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Really? As Blackbeard stood up, the oppressive aura of more than 3 meters in height rushed towards him. Looks like I'm bothering you. As he said that, he glanced at Roman next to him, left a meaningful sentence, and turned around. You have a good crew. If only I could go, Sky Island. After speaking, he turned and left neatly, filling the cheap wine in his hand as he walked. Today's wine is extraordinarily delicious, gahaha. As Blackbeard turned to leave, the serious-looking Luffy, Zoro, and Roman also left in the other direction. And the streets as battlefields. Soon there will be professional undertakers, cleaners, and builders to restore it to its original state. But it was only a single fight, except that the losing party was the Bellamy Pirates, which gave the pirates a few more days to talk about, and it was no different from the past. Get drunk, indulge, and then spend the last coin in your pocket. With red eyes clutching the knife, he sailed out to sea to continue looting. Is this the so-called New Age pirate? Just a bunch of poor bastards. Roman, that big black guy just now is. Silently walked out of the town, facing Luffy's question. Roman first let the paper cranes around him investigate, to make sure there was no one else, and then slowly said. Marshall D. Teach. The name of the big black guy just now. He also has a nickname called Blackbeard. After a pause, Roman added. He's the captain of those masters I'm talking about. A true top player, better than all the enemies we've come across combined. Even a sand crocodile in full force. Well, I know. After walking out of the town, Luffy's expression gradually softened. He's strong. I'm not his match. Yes. Zoro on the other side with a stern face also nodded. I also feel like I'm not his match. It's a very correct judgment. No wonder Luffy and Zoro are silent all the way. But this is, of course, it is also the future 4 emperors. And unlike the Straw Hats who just went to sea, they are old coins that have been lurking on the ship of the 4 emperors Whitebeard for decades. 3-color hockey 100% proficient top master. Blackbeard considers the overall situation of the journey to the strongest, the style of betting and daring to act, the attitude of running first when confronted with a strong enemy, and the attitude of being broad-minded when encountering setbacks, whether it is temperament or strength. Select. It is simply a Prime Minister Sal with a full force value. He is an uncompromising hero. Anyway, this is a very dangerous figure. However, it seems that it is romantic, and Blackbeard just showed a little, real face, and Luffy and Zoro have already noticed his strength. That's fine, only pressure can motivate you. Hey, why do you 3 have a dead face? When the 3 returned to going merry, the unusual expression caught Nami's attention. Did you encounter anything? Encounter what? Encountered a monster, able to eat 2 devil fruits without dying, and was even about to eat a 3rd. Luffy's future strong enemy, the famous Blackbeard Marshall D. Teach. Roman remembered that there were 2 younger sisters in the rumor of Blackbeard, and it is the iron law of this world that a person can only eat 1 devil fruit, so there has always been a speculation in the previous life that Blackbeard was made by the previous generation, Tuntun fruit, and was an adult. So he doesn't have to sleep, he can bear the extra devil fruit, go to destroy the Drum Kingdom as soon as he defected, etc. But what does this have to do with Roman? Whether Blackbeard's ambition is to overturn Tenryubito, to rule the world, or some other mess, it doesn't matter. Roman just needs to ensure the safety of the Straw Hats. As for if the plot develops as before, then Roman will do his best to help Luffy defeat Blackbeard. As for now, our main target now is the Sky Island that the captain ordered. Hey, the faces of the 3 are not very optimistic. When Nicole Robin in a black leather coat came back, all she saw were 3 serious faces. It's okay, we encountered a monster. Roman waved his hand and didn't want to bring up this topic again. Robin, do you have anything to gain over there? Yes. When it comes to the ability of the entire Straw Hats to inquire about intelligence, of course, Nicole Robin is none other than Nicole Robin. Although Roman can use the paper crane to monitor the whole map, the paper crane will not ask about the collection. This is a map of the island of Gaia. Nicole Robin, who changed into a black leather jacket and leather pants, took out a map, which instantly attracted Luffy's attention. Is it a treasure map? It's already a map. Robin pointed to the other side of the island on the map, that is, the east coast corresponding to the mock town, where everyone was, and there was a X drawn there. Here lives an old man who was banished by Gaja, called Mont Blanc Kulik. A dreamer, I heard he has information on Sky Island. Saying that, Robin smiled and looked at Luffy. It should be easy to talk to you guys.